Chapter 392. No one had any idea about what those words meant. It seemed like he was chanting something. Gibson felt the air around them become chilly. Moreover, Gibson saw his eyes flicker in crimson red. Gibson and Maxine unconsciously took a step back. Welton noticed the youngster's eyes flickering. He was confused as he saw him get closer and closer. "We are so little." The moment these words came out of his mouth, Gibson saw Lucifer grab Welton by his neck. He lifted him off from the ground, slamming him against old Bertha's hull. Welton struggled to utter a word. "I told you to repair her, not hide 26 pirates inside her to kill us." Maxine and Gibson was stunned. Welton's eyes opened wide in disbelief. "You signed the death warrant for 27 pirates today." Crack! Welton's frantic struggle came to a halt as his neck produced a cracking sound. His eyes were still wide open when he hit the ground. "My lord," Gibson shuddered. "Maxine, get her on the water." "Gibson, go tell those pirates to put everything on the deck." Michael didn't bother telling why he killed Welton. He just gave them an order, flicked his wrist, willing the system to put the gold-filled chest into the system storage, grabbed Welton's body, and threw it on the deck with a swift jump. Michael landed on Bertha's upper deck. He walked towards the rudder before holding the rudder, which reminded him of Silent Reaper. With a sigh of breath, he turned back to see a barrel on the corner. Conveniently for Michael, when he opened up the barrel it was empty. "Looks like this is your fancy coffin, buddy," Michael snickered. He then picked up Welton by his collar, putting him inside the barrel. After hiding the body, Michael walked around the upper deck. If it wasn't for his X-ray eyes, he may have not found the pirates hiding in the lower decks. Those visions enabled him to see the armed pirates hiding beneath him. It was obvious Welton was planning to get the bounty amount as a price for the ship, then kill Maxine, get another 100,000 from Corey. Michael was not stupid or generous enough to give him 100,000 gold coins for the old ship. He planned to beat up Welton and then get the ship and go. However, Welton's ambush plan made Michael take his life. As far as Michael was concerned, he could let go of 100 enemies but not a single traitor. His focus now turned towards the hooks attached to the poles. They were holding the ship from sliding through the slop to the ocean. "You are a lucky girl, Bertha." He talked to the ship while making his way to the metal hooks. "I'm going to make you a super OP ship and avenge the Silent Reaper." He removed the first hook from the mainsail pole. He continued to remove hooks while he saw several pirates entering the hangar carrying huge crates. Their biceps were flexing as the frowns on their faces indicated how heavy the crates are. One by one the pirates put down the crates. "My lord, can you throw down that rope attached to the lever?" Gibson shouted from the ground. "Here," with a kick, Michael sent down the roll of ropes to him. The pirates along with Gibson tied the ropes around the crates to lift the crates up. If Michael used arch energy, it would not even take a minute. He could just put the crates inside the space ring, jump onto the deck and retrieve the crates out of the ring. "My lord," suddenly, Michael heard Arya's voice in his head through the earpiece. "What is it?" "There are several war frigates surrounding us. Don't move, they'll be there." As he said, he jumped down. "Gibson, give them something and see them outside." Hearing Michael's serious voice, Gibson realized something was amiss. He quickly nodded before giving a pirate a pouch of gold coins. "Share the tip." "Thanks, man." The heaviness of the pouch immediately put a wide grin on the pirates' faces. In addition to the hefty tip, it seemed like they didn't have to put the heavy crates on the top deck, which meant less work for them. "It's done, my lord," Gibson said while Maxine walked towards the crates to help Gibson. Both of them saw Michael wave his hand as the crates disappeared from their sight in an instant. The very next moment, he grabbed both of them by the coolers. "Ah! Shit!" Both Maxine and Gibson cried out aloud when Michael leaped into the air with them. In a second, they landed on the upper deck. "Get to the rudder, we are leaving," he said before leaping into the air once again. This time, they saw him land on the crow's nest. He did not give a damn about the pirates hiding beneath. They would be thinking they are going to ambush them surprisingly. Rather than worried about war frigates surrounding the Caius airship, he was excited. "Corey, is that you or one of the others?" Michael cracked his neck before clenching his fists. Maxine made quick work on the sails. Since the hooks were off, sails were ready to open and Gibson was at the rudder. Old Bertha just needed a push to slide through the slope. Wind blast. A powerful gust of whirlwind fired out of his hands. The whirlwind of wind blast was so powerful that it shook the entire ship. The creaking noise appeared as well as they felt the ship moving. Creak. The ship purred as it slid forward slowly. The entire ship trembled, the poles and every nook and cranny in the ship let out a gust of dust. Is that old Bertha? What the fuck? Is that Welton's piece of crap? Shit, run! The ship immediately caused a commotion on the streets when it left the hangar. Someone dashing away from the way while many were pointing out at the ship and speculating. Michael hoped Welton Idiot did a better job fixing her than he did with his ambush plan. He still wasn't aware of the main issue of Bertha. A ship's keel was like the spine of a human being. If it was split in half, there was no fixing the ship. With a few plants and metal plates, Welton patched her up temporarily. Fortunately, it was enough for Bertha to stay afloat instead of sinking into the ocean. The sails slowly opened, putting a smile on Maxina's face. Even Michael had a grin on his face. He couldn't help remembering the Silent Reaper. Although the ship was nasty as hell, he missed the ship since it was his first ship. Back to the airship, standing on the crow's nest, Michael ordered Gibson. Now that they were on the ocean, they could see tiny figures of ships on the distant horizon. The crow's nest enabled Michael to see the airship more clearly. There were 5 war frigates surrounding the airship as they slowly sailed towards the airship. Michael leaped down onto the deck without even using the arch energy. He landed comfortably. My lord, the pirates! In the below decks. Kill them all and bring their bodies to me. At that moment, his eyes completely became crimson red. Michael noticed the change in his eyes. He wasn't using eyes of darkness, yet his eyes were turning red without his control. It was a sign of him becoming the Dark Lord he was supposed to be. Michael knew this. He had no problem becoming the Dark Lord. Even before he knew about the prophecy, he was planning to rule the world from the shadows. However, he had problems with people judging him from prophecies and divinations. Unlike what they were thinking, he wasn't planning to destroy the world. Why would he want to destroy the place he plans to rule? As far as he was concerned, if there was one ruler to the entire world, the kingdoms would stay united, no wars, no hunger, and the world would actually be peaceful. Even to this day, Michael had no idea what the Guardians and Sky Hall did 21 years ago to him and Diana, his birth mother. He thought he was born on Earth, came to this world because of the system, and got his soul transmigrated into a brass body. He had no idea he was in a rude awakening after reaching the Akilun realm and getting to know more about Sky Hall. For a battle-hardened warrior with a medallion that gave inhuman strength and speed, killing 25 pirates was not a difficult task. Drink this. With a flick of his wrist, Michael retrieved a vial containing a glistening blood-red potion. Maxine did not even ask a single question as she gulped the potion in one go. He was glad to see such loyalty from her. The potion you just drank will give you speed, strength, and quick reflexes for 30 minutes. Hunt them down. The blood-red potion was called the Berserker Potion. It would temporarily enable the user to achieve a Berserker state, which would triple the strength, speed, and speed of reflexes. The only drawback of the potion was it could only be used by a body refining stage or anyone under the body refining stage. After sending Maxine down decks, Michael walked towards the rudder stage. When he reached the steps, he just sat on the stairs. My lord, did you go there? Some war frigates surrounding the airship. Lucifer's calm face gave Gibson strange confidence. Regardless, he was sailing basically a naked ship towards war frigates. He wasn't afraid at all. Boom. Arg. Kill her. Bitch. Shit. Ah. They began to hear cries of agony coming from below decks. Gibson saw no expression on Lucifer's face. He was looking in the airship's direction through the spyglass. The cries of agony continued to sound throughout the ship, but as time passed by, the cries sounded quieter and quieter. Holy fuck! One of the war frigates that surrounded the airship belonged to none other than Xian. He was at the helm when she heard one of his crew members shout, Captain, you have to see this? The crew member came running to Xian with the spyglass. What the hell happened to you? Xian frowned, looking at the shivering crew member. Grabbing the spyglass from the crew member, Xian looked at the ship approaching them in the distance. It took Xian a few moments to lock his eyes on the ship. Then, he felt a cold chill running through his spine. Shit. Through his spyglass, he witnessed several bleeding men hanging from the sail posts. The sight gave him a chill. It was not because he hadn't seen dead bodies before. Those men hanging from the poles, they were his men. Chapter 393. Old Bertha slowly approached the airship. The sun was in the middle of the sky, roasting everything under. Anyone on the sea could feel the ocean breeze getting warmer and warmer to the point it made them sweat under their loose shirts. You gotta be kidding me. Tiberius looked at the approaching ship through the window. He could vaguely see the sorry state of old Bertha. Lucier went to buy a new ship and an old ship was sailing towards them after some time. It didn't take a genius to figure out they bought the old ship. Shit, Tiberius heard Sadie curse from the window next to him. He turned to see her looking through the spyglass. What? Tiberius asked. She was shivering slightly. Hence he was curious. See for yourself. Sadie handed over the spyglass to Tiberius. Closing his one eye, Tiberius placed the spyglass on the other to look through it. The surrounding war frigates looked bigger and clear as well as the old ship sailing towards them. "I'll be damned," Tiberius mumbled the moment he saw the bodies hanging from the sail poles. The bodies were still bleeding. Some bodies had their chests caved in, some had shoulders cut off, some had a hole in their head right between the eyes. He moved the spyglass to see Lucifer sitting leisurely on the steps with a calm face. Then he moved a couple of inches up to see Gibson holding the rudder while Maxine moved around the deck, keeping the sails intact. He could vaguely see the blood splatters on her cream-white top. Gotta love that woman. Tiberius could guess who was responsible for the hanging bodies. Whoever they are, they just called in the devil. A cold sweat drop appeared on Sadie's forehead. You believe in that shit? I mean, he's a freak of nature, but I don't think he is a god as Maxine or you people claim him to be. Tiberius rolled his eyes. You're either stupid or ignorant to believe otherwise. Not even an immortal can use cultivation in the southern continent, but he does that. Have you heard of guardians? Sadie asked while he was slightly in shock of her direct approach. Yeah, they are some big potatoes in your part of the world, right? They are one of the most powerful organizations in the world. If they wanted, they could take over the world in a few weeks. Still, they started to piss their pants when he made his mark. I'm telling you, Tiberius, he's not a human. At best, he's a god. At worst, he's the devil, Sadie said. Her voice and face couldn't be any more serious. Either way, we are here because of him. Suddenly they heard another voice. They immediately turned back and saw Arya standing in front of them. Her gratitude towards Lucifer was multiplied by several folds when he agreed to cure her brothers. In a week or so, her brothers would be completely healed. He performed a miracle in her life. She would never forget what he did for her. When my brothers wake up, we are gonna dedicate our lives to his cause and get rid of all those fucking slave traders from this world. Sadie could see the murderous intent in her eyes. Her voice sounded so cold. Big Bertha slowly sailed towards the war frigate surrounding the airship. The cannons on the upper deck were tilted up, aimed at the airship. At this close range, there was no way the airship could escape if the pirates decided to fire at will. That son of a bitch. Maxine came to his side before handing over the spyglass to him. It's Xian. As he was looking at Xian through the spyglass, he heard Maxine's annoyed voice, which also had a tinge of shock. So they are here on Pirate Lord Vancess' orders? Michael asked. No. The other ships, they belong to Corey, my lord. The 8-petal flower symbol on the flags, that's Corey's crest. Gibson slowly sailed towards Xian's ship in the front. Michael calmly waited for their ship to get closer to Xian's. Xian's ship was a war frigate. The ship was almost 60 meters long and seemed to have up to 124 guns. 4 at the bow, 8 at the stern, and 56 in each broadside. The sails were dyed in muddy browns just like the hull. Unlike the rest of the ships, Xian had a blood-red shark in the flag. Although Bertha was bigger than any war frigate surrounding the airship, she had zero firepower at the moment. The size of Bertha intimidated some pirates. Of course, she was not as scary as the Silent Reaper, however. She was intimidating with her sheer size and speed. When Bertha sailed adjacent to Xian's ship, Xian along with a couple of other pirates came to Bertha using rope swings. Hello Marina, ship sucks but I dig the decoration. He looked at the bleeding bodies hanging from the sail poles above them. Maxine looked at Michael, asking wordlessly for his permission to talk. He nodded, giving her permission to talk. What's going on? Nothing. Pirate Lord Corey just wants to meet you. There is no just Xian. Cut the crap, this is a fucking fleet. You are taking the airship hostage and what the hell are you doing here? You don't answer to Corey. I think you are mistaken about the situation here, Marina. We can do this the easy way, or the hard way. If I were you, Xian snickered as he looked around the ship. I'd pick the easy way. We will pick the easy way. The Silent Queen talks, Xian laughed when he heard Michael finally talk. He had a feeling that this youngster is the one running the show behind Marina. You made the right choice. Now if you follow us, lead the way, Captain Xian, Michael said with a smile. I like you. The respectful way Michael addressed him put a smile on his face. However, in Gibson's eyes, Xian looked like a sheep calling the wolf with a wide grin on its face. And if you don't mind, we will remove these decorations, Xian asked. It didn't sound like a request but an order. Of course, yet again Michael nodded with a smile. And the airship coming with us? Maxine wanted to leap at Xian, rip his throat off for making too many requests at Lord Lucifer. As you wish. I like you more and more, big fella, Xian laughed out aloud. Michael was 6'3" and almost looked 6'4" with his muscular build. Even with a large shirt and long coat, his muscles were visible. Height was another thing that changed about him. Aubrey's was 6 feet tall, but recently Michael had grown extra 3 inches. Fortunately, the system ensured Michael would grow taller unless he wanted to. Arya, follow us. Xian saw the youngster mumble something under his breath, keeping his hand on the right ear. They will follow us, Captain Xian. Xian pointed his finger at the hanging bodies before jumping back onto his ship. The pirates climbed the poles as though they were human monkeys. In a few short moments, they cut down all the bodies from the ropes. As the pirates were lining up the bodies, Gibson followed Xian's ship while the rest of the ships followed Xian's ship. The airship also slowly moved. My lord, what's the plan? Maxine whispered. Just go and have a nice long chat with Pirate Captain Corey. 6 hours had passed in a blink of an eye. In the 6 hours, Michael was inside the captain's cabin meditating. The captain's cabin was a dust-covered, broken mess. There was no table, chair, or anything but only broken wooden plans and empty ale bottles. The place seemed like the go-to place for pirate parties. The room reeked of piss and ale, yet Michael controlled all his senses through meditation. He learned meditation from a Shaolin monk back on Earth when he trained under Spectre. My lord? He could hear the door creak open. He slowly opened his eyes to see Maxine standing by the door. With a nod, Michael stood up. He walked towards the door, feeling the anger within him calming down. When he stepped out of the door, he was welcomed by a colorful island under millions of stars and a full golden moon. There were countless warships lined up before the island. The peculiar feature about the island was the glowing flowers. The scenery looked as though the island was a Christmas tree and the flowers were the decorations. Everywhere he turned, he could see the glowing flowers. Red, blue, orange, golden, silver, green, every color flower could be seen on the island. In addition to the glowing flowers, the island's atmosphere resembled a party. A piece of loud music reverberated the island while the cheers of the pirates were ear-splitting. I love this world. He took in the beautiful sight of the island. A smile appeared on his face after a while. Lead the way, Maxine. As Maxine led the way, he saw Xian and his crew walking in front of them. The airship was still above the same fleet that came to surround the ship earlier. Although Michael seemed to be walking looking at the path before him, he was scanning his surroundings. Thanks to the environmental scanning skill, he didn't have to make a mental map like he used to. For a few minutes, they continued to walk on the wooden platform that led to a huge manor in the center of the island. It was neither a castle nor a fancy manor like Bradford Manor, but it was huge. 3 stories, a balcony where several couples of pirates were making out, lawn filled with drunken pirates singing and dancing, and tiny glowing flowers decorated the entire manor like LED lights. Following Maxine and Xian's group, Michael entered the manor through the main door. From the outside, the manor looked delightful, rustic, and folksy. When he stepped inside, he was welcomed by redwood walls and thick, stone beams as well as a sense of home and the smell of alcohol. It was as charming inside as it is on the outside. Tree logs supported the upper floor and the sconces attached to them. The walls were decorated with vanes, the same glowing followers that Michael saw outside, and several pot plants. He felt like he had entered a tavern inside a botanical garden. It was clear Corey was a lover of nature. The manor itself was packed with pirates. Several long tables were occupied by separate groups of pirates, all enjoying themselves, but they kept to themselves. The other, smaller tables were also occupied by people who are clearly having a good time. Even most of the stools at the bar were occupied, though nobody seemed to mind more company. Welcome to Witch Island, folks. Xian turned around with a wide grin on his face to welcome them. Chapter 394. When the pirates having drinks saw Maxine, the smiles on their faces completely vanished. At the moment, the joyous mood inside the manor died down. Instead, a gloomy atmosphere took control over the area. Gibson felt uncomfortable seeing the countless death glares at them. Through the glaring pirates, they followed Xian behind. At the end of the hall, there were crescent-shaped stairs leading to the upper floors. On his way, Michael noticed the maids and female pirates licking their lips looking at him. The face mask changed his extremely handsome face to some generic normal-looking face. There was nothing special about his facial features. However, his height and muscular build made him stand out in the crowd. All the girls in the hall wanted a piece of him. Even some of the girls sitting on their partner's lap stared at Michael instead of their partners. Ignoring the gazes, Michael followed Xian. The stairs were decorated with the same glowing flowers. The island seemed to have glowing flowers in abundance. Everywhere he turned, he could see the flowers. The veins were coiling around the stair edges. Hence, he was able to touch the flower. Like most of the flowers, the petals were extremely soft and silky, too soft. He rubbed his fingers together to feel a powdery substance that got attached to his fingers when he touched them. Despite its powdery form, the powder seemed to stick like glue to the skin. He then quickly took a whiff without letting the others notice him. His lips slightly curved upwards a few moments later. Listening to the cheery pirate music, they climbed the stairs. Finally, when they reached the top floor where they saw a couple of pirates staying in front of a redwood door. The door had carvings of various fishes, flowers as well as a huge eye on the center. The guards did not wear any armor. Instead, they had spears in their hands. Also, they looked huge, almost 7 feet with biceps the size of a normal human being's thighs. Any lesser man would be torn to pieces by the guards. Their stature alone freaked out Gibson. Only because he had Lucifer before, Gibson wasn't very afraid of the guards. Approaching the door, Xian nodded as though he was giving a wordless password. The guards slowly opened the door to reveal the room on the other side. The gigantic diamond-shaped chandelier hanging from the ceiling lit the room with its golden light. In the golden light, 2 figures appeared in their sight. The 2 figures were surrounded by nothing but greeneries. The wall was completely layered by green veins and heart-shaped leaves. There wasn't a single spot in the room that wasn't covered by the veins or leaves. In addition to the thick veins and leaves, the emerald green flowers riddled the room. Even the round table between Michael and the group and the 2 figures were covered by the veins. This was the only place Michael saw no glowing flowers. One of the figures on the other side of the table was a woman. At the moment, they could only see her back. She had wavy long brown hair in which she had tiny glowing flowers as a decoration. She was 6 foot tall with a slender build. The smell of rustic nature permeated from her as well as the walls around them. When they stepped into the room, the guards shut the doors. The other figure was tied to a chair. She was slowly running her fingers on her face. Michael stepped aside slightly to see the bald man struggling to speak something, but his words were muffled by the cloth around his mouth. Although Michael had no idea about the identity of the man, he knew she was one of the 3 pirate lords, Corey. He still couldn't see her front side. While he was staring at her back, she raised her hand. "So nice of you to return to your former Lord Marina." Her sound sounded sweet and gentle. She slowly turned back to let them see the front of her. The moment she turned around, Gibson was stunned. Her face was completely filled with tattoos. Michael was slightly stunned too, not because her face was buried under tattoos. It was because the tattoos resembled Mayan and Aztec tattoos on the earth. Gibson couldn't tell she was beautiful or not so beautiful before all the tattoos. Corey smiled, revealing her pearl-white row of teeth, looking at Michael's fixed gaze on her. "Like what you see, handsome." She suddenly opened up her brown blouse, revealing her ample bosom. Gibson's jaw almost dropped to the ground. She removed the shirt and threw it on the floor. Just like her face, every inch of her body was decorated with tattoos. However, Michael saw a thin layer of oil on her body. He wasn't surprised though, because he knew why exactly she applied oil on her body. "You know who he is?" She took a step forward, then walked around the tied-up man while running her finger through his face. When she came behind the man, she bent down to kiss the top of his head. "My lover, soon-to-be ex, I suppose." Her hands leisurely moved towards her long gown. With a flick of her wrist, she untied the laces on each side. The long gown slowly fell off, revealing her lower body. Gibson couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Right at the moment, Corey had nothing but a tiny piece of cloth covering her womanhood. "Am I ugly, my dear?" "You didn't think I am when we made love." The man seemed to be trying to scream, but all that escaped his mouth was a muffled cry. Yet again she slowly walked to the front of the man, sat on his lap and licked his cheeks. "Am I ugly, my dear?" she whispered into the man's ears. It was loud enough for everyone to hear. The man frantically struggled against the ropes that tied his arms and legs to the chair. But no matter how hard he shook his body, he couldn't escape. After a few moments of licking the man's cheeks, she stood up. Michael was patiently looking at all the drama with a smile on his face. All of their eyes were fixed on Corey, expecting what she was gonna do next. Gibson couldn't help expecting the last piece of cloth to come down, just to see if all of her had been decorated with tattoos. "Uma," Corey gave the man a flying kiss. She then placed her hand on the man's cheek. Under their gazes, she snapped her fingers. The very next moment, the flames appeared out of nowhere and enveloped the man. The man was on fire literally. His frantic struggle became worse by the second. Everyone was completely in shock except Michael. Although Maxine had seen Corey perform with Chris many times, she was still stunned to see it again. She told Michael about Corey's ability to perform witchcraft. Yet, he had never reacted much except a smile. Gibson was staring at the burning body in a daze. His mind was boggled trying to figure out what just happened. She used magic? Gibson asked himself. Then he looked at Lucifer to see him standing there completely indifferent. The burning smell of skin overpowered the rustic aroma in the room. "Who feels like barbecue?" Corey chuckled before stomping the ground. The floor beneath him quickly opened up as the burning man dropped into the hole. After burning the man alive, Corey turned to lock her eyes with Maxine. She still had an alluring smile on her face. "You don't scare me, Corey," Maxine calmly said. In terms of making people scared, Corey was nowhere near Lord Lucifer. "Is that so?" Corey licked her lips. "Enough of this circus." Finally Michael opened his mouth. Xian almost unsheathed his sword when he saw Lucifer pull back one of the chairs. Corey looked at him sitting on the chair without batting an eye. Her alluring smile almost turned cold as Michael put his leg on the table. "I have to say, you put up a good show," he chuckled. "Pirate Lord." Xian tried to step forward but was stopped by the wave of Corey's hand. "A highly flammable spores produced by the glowing flowers," he calmly said. "The gunpowder mixed with a tinge of iron powder under your fingernails. Snap your fingers hard to create a spark." As the smile on Michael's face grew wider, the smile on Corey's face dimmed down. "Everyone walking through the party will basically be bathed in invisible oil." Maxine always wondered why there were no torches inside the manor and the pirates were prohibited to use torches. If everyone were flammable in the manor thanks to the glowing flowers, it made sense not to allow anyone to play with fire. "Then why am I not on fire?" Corey asked. Michael chuckled yet again, looking at her confidence in her voice despite scamming people with her fake witchcraft for years. "They might not see the oil on your body, but I can. It prevents you from getting caught on fire in close range." He paused for a moment to Corey realize her scam has been exposed. "The tattoos on your body, your gimmick of being a witch, the decorations." He looked around the room. "You wanted to be a witch when you were little and managed to be a fake one with the help of your scams. I got to hand it to you, fake or not. You built yourself an empire, I respect that." He nodded approvingly. "But do you want to see real magic?" The smile on his face disappeared. Gibson felt a chill hearing his animalistic voice once again. The next moment, the room became dark despite the chandelier light. Corey's eyes opened as wide as they could when she saw the youngster in front of her suddenly change his form. She unconsciously took a step back, seeing the dark smoke around him. His red eyes, the skull mask, the black armor, and his voice, everything made her shiver. The next moment, when Xian was still in shock, Corey saw him point his finger towards Xian. A bolt of lightning immediately fired out from his hand and struck Xian. Boom! Corey was taken aback by the muffled exploding sound. It took her a few seconds to realize the red mist in the air was Xian. Chapter 395. Corey's legs were uncontrollably shivering. Her mind was blank. She was unable to understand what just happened. Not a single sound could be heard at the moment except the music sounds coming from downstairs. Her eyes watched him slowly stand up from the chair. She wanted to scream, but not a single word came out of her mouth. Overwhelming shock had completely taken over her mind and body. His every step towards her made her heartbeat increase. With his fully Lucifer armor equipped, he almost looked 7 foot tall. The completely Lucifer form freaked the hell out of Gibson. Despite the chandelier light, his complete Lucifer form darkened the room. The darkness overshadowed the light. He came behind her. With a flick of his wrist, he retrieved a normal wooden chair from the space ring. He placed his hands on her shoulder as Corey felt a chill running through her spine. He pushed her down to make her sit on the chair. Just like she did, he ran his fingers through her face. His sharp claw-like gloves slightly hurt her skin, but she didn't utter a word. "You have two choices, darling. You can choose to scream and hope your guards arrive before you turn into our friend Xian there." He cupped her face before turning her neck in the direction where Xian was. The ground was painted with his blood. Not even bits of bones remained on the ground. Xian was completely turned into a bloody pulpy mess by Xianxia. "Or you can agree to my offer and taste the power of real magic." In one hand, a golden bolt of lightning, in the other, crimson red flame danced around. Corey could feel the electricity from the lightning bolts and the heat from the crimson red flame on her skin. He bent down, kissing the top of her head, just like how she did to the bald man. Corey's entire body shivered because of the fear toxin Michael released into the air. Not only Corey but also Maxine and Gibson shivered in fear. The fire and lightning bolts above his palms soon faded away. A pendant appeared in his hand. He placed the pendant around her neck. "Remove it and you will know there are things worse than death." Corey touched the tiny pendant on her neck. She felt the chill on her neck. He took a few steps to stand in front of her. His hands ran through her shoulder, arms, then he clutched the arms of the chair. Corey's teeth chattered. She slowly tilted her head up to see him bend his back to look directly into her eyes. "Hey, race my offer, darling." He willed the system to stop radiating fear toxin from his suit. Instead, he ordered the system to release the antidote so Corey's mind would become normal. Scam or not, she used her brain to build an empire from scratch. As far as he was concerned, a brain like that was more valuable than any superweapon. Every time he willed the system to radiate fear toxin from his suit, he had to pay 2,000 badass points. It seemed like a waste to him. However, he had no other way because his inventor skill level was too low to build a device into his suit of armor which would control potion releases instead of the system. It changed after he upgraded the inventor skill. He could now build various devices to replace the system. Ever since the system went offline, he started to plan for the future without the system. He realized long ago that he shouldn't completely rely on the system. Since Corey was just a mortal with no cultivation base, the antidote quickly dispelled the fear toxin from her bloodstream. Her pupils retracted as she stared into the crimson-red eyes of Lucifer. "You now serve me. You can carry on your pirate lord's work as usual except sometimes. You answer to me or Maxine. Fail to carry your orders, and you will be replaced." "That's the stick." Michael turned his gaze on the robes on the ground. He just flicked his wrist as the cloth floated into his hands. Maxine and Gibson saw Lucifer covering Corey with her clothes. "If you serve me well, you will get rich, powerful and a shot at immortality." That's the carrot. Corey couldn't believe for a second what she just heard. She had heard of immortals in cultivation continents. Unfortunately, she was born in the southern continent, which made her unable to cultivate to reach higher stages. System, imprint a simple fire conjuring spell into her brain. Back on cultivation continents, even a commoner could conjure sparks or a tiny ball of fire using arch energy. In addition to conjuring fireballs, they were also able to do simple things such as making small objects levitate. Simple tasks such as these did not even require the user to cast spells. They could just manipulate the arch energy with their mind and accomplish that. For cultivators and even for commoners, these tasks were as simple as breathing and use a negligible amount of arch energy. Hence, Michael decided to give Corey a little taste of magic. The system can imprint the ability to conjure fire into her brain for just 4,000 badass points. The system can transfer a tiny amount of arch energy from the host's body to Corey. "Do it," as he ordered the system in his mind. He placed his hand on Corey's head. For the first time since Michael revealed himself as Lucifer, Corey opened her mouth. Seeing her cry, Gibson thought Lucifer was hurting Corey. Corey felt like a bullet ant drilling through her brain. The pain gradually lessened as Corey sensed something different. She couldn't explain the feeling, but she felt a new sensation. It was natural and easy as breathing. What you feeling is a little taste of the power you can wield in the future. He took several steps back from Corey. "If you serve me well," Michael said as Corey lifted her hands, feeling the hot sensation building inside her palm. The very next moment, She snapped her finger like a tiny orb of fire lit up above her palm. The fire danced around her palm as Gibson and Maxine stared at Corey with their eyes wide open. How did you? Shit. I'm using magic, Corey stuttered. Her eyes were filled with joy and shock. She soon conjured a fireball in each hand. She laughed so wide as though she was a child playing with her favorite toy. A few moments later, playing with the fire, she looked up at Lucifer. Who are you? She asked shockingly. I am Lucifer. People call me the Dark Lord. The moment the words escaped his mouth, a stream of crimson-red fire and golden streaks of lightning crisscrossed around him. Coupled with the dark cloud, the fire and lightning scared the shit out of Corey. What's it gonna be, Pirate Lord Corey? Stick or carrot? Your choice. As he spoke, Maxine made her way to stand behind Michael. Gibson too soon followed Maxine's footsteps to stand behind him. Corey was not dumb to refuse the offer. It was a once-in-lifetime offer. Besides, he didn't give her much of a choice. She could either agree to serve him or disagree and probably die like Xian. She didn't build an empire by making wrong choices and letting go of opportunities such as this. Hence, naturally she wanted to agree. I agree, mister. You will address him as my lord, Maxine interrupted Corey. I agree, my lord. My fleet is yours to command. Corey knelt down on one knee. She was an opportunist, not a woman who clung on to pointless pride. You are going to take back the bounty you put on Maxine. His first order to her was regarding the bounty on Maxine's head. He would have loved to have some sea battles if old Bertha had some firepower and was in a fighting condition. If he had Silent Reaper, the mere sight of that beat would have scared the shit out of the pirates. Yes, my lord. Corey immediately agreed with him. She was glad he didn't take her life for putting Maxine's life in danger. As far as Corey could guess, Maxine seemed like the right hand of Lucifer, which kinda made Maxine her superior. Then I'm pretty sure you can spin some story to explain what happened to Xian. My existence must be kept as a secret until I tell you otherwise. Michael did not waste his time and brain thinking about a way to explain Xian's death. A woman who managed to scam the pirates for decades would be able to spin some bullshit story to cover up Xian's death. Until I deal with the other pirate lords, don't engage in combat with the Thusians. Maxine was slightly surprised to hear his order. She thought he would send Corey's entire fleet to chase away the Thusians after subduing her. Instead, he did the exact opposite. My lord, can I ask you something? Yes. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Your mind is a precious one. It should be used to its full potential. Only then, we can rule this entire world. Obviously his words stunned Corey. Hence, her eyes opened as wide as they could. Stand up and speak your mind, Michael said, willing the system to unequip the Lucifer armor. In a blink of an eye, he transformed into his previous human form. Corey heaved a sigh of relief inside. The normal human form was easy to talk to compared to his freakish Dark Lord form. Can I really achieve immortality? Michael smiled hearing her question. He could see the thirst for power and immortality in her eyes. People like her would be easier to control than people with high morals and righteousness. As I said before, serve me well and you will rule a part of this world forever. Chapter 396. At the moment, somewhere else in the southern continent, a man robbed a pearl-white toga with a golden laurel on his head sitting on a throne. The man seemed to be tall but not too tall to stand out in a crowd. This fair-skinned man has a suspicious feel about him. His greasy, light blonde hair was very short and currently dyed completely butterscotch. His forehead got bigger as his hair seemed to be falling out. He had a square face with a cleft chin, a long neck, broad shoulders, toned arms and large hands, a heavy torso with no muscle tone, round hips, weak legs, and average-sized feet. He was sitting on the throne as though he was a king who rules the entire kingdom rather than a head senator. His thirst for being a single ruler made him decorate the hall in his manner like a throne hall of a king. In the hall, bulky braziers encompassed each of the 12 marmoreal columns that light up every part of the throne hall, covering the hall in dancing shadows and a warm radiance. The intricate golden patterns on the layered ceiling danced in the flickering light while memorials and statues looked down upon the oaken floor of this sublime hall. A jade rug was running down from the throne for a few meters before coming to an end, while forked banners with burnished tufts dangled gently from the walls. Between each banner sat a small altar full of candles. All but a few have been lit and in turn illuminated the paintings of men wearing a toga and golden laurel on their head of the world below them. Slim windows were edged by veils colored the same jade as the banners. The curtains had been adorned with gold leaves and decorating tips. A magnificent throne of oak sits atop a tall elevated platform and was adjoined by 3 plain, but comfortable seats for those closest to the man. Those who wanted to be heard by the man could do so on the several long and rather bulky stone benches, all of which were facing the throne. Those of higher standing such as other senators and nobles could instead take seats in the renovated balustrades overlooking the throne. Your Majesty, from the left side of the throne, a Spartan soldier walked towards the man. The Spartan soldier's boots kept making thud sounds as he came before the man. Immediately the Spartan soldier knelt on his one knee. The man liked to be addressed as Your Majesty as though he was a king rather than senator when they were in his manner. Those who disagreed with his request would disappear overnight. Although Maven was a Senate-ruled kingdom, it was ruled by this man alone. The other senators were just puppets of him. He was corrupt to the core with an insatiable thirst for power and money. The soldier placed the spear on the ground before sliding his hand into the red cape he was wearing. In a moment, the soldier retrieved a luminous bluish crystal from his pouch. The crystal was covered in gray dust which dimmed out the crystal. Is that? The man's eyes glistened in excitement. Bring it to me, the man ordered the Spartan. No one was in the throne hall except the man and the Spartan soldier. The man couldn't hold his excitement as before the Spartan could reach him, he stood up, walked straight to the Spartan, and grabbed the crystal from the Spartan's hand. Arch energy, pure arch energy. I can feel it, the man grinned, feeling the pulses coming from the crystal. He clenched the crystal so tight. The longer he held the crystal in his hand, the louder his laughter became. It's true. Stormvale Mountain really has arch energy crystals within. Ha 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 ha. His mad laughter echoed through the empty throne hall. Several minutes later, the man finally stopped his mad laughter. Spartan hostess, how many crystals those slaves mined? The last time I counted, they had mined 100 stones, Your Majesty. If you give me the word, I can hire the scholars and engineers to build a pulley system which would speed up the mining process, Your Majesty. The man rubbed his chin for a few moments after hearing the Spartan. You can do that. But after they build everything, kill them and bury them in the mine, the man said without any remorse and hesitation. What about the slaves, Your Majesty? Should I recycle them or make sure they never leave the mine until they die? The Spartan soldier was not much different than the man. Spartan hostess had been serving Senator Vibius Caelius Serius for more than a decade. In this decade of time, he had killed more than 100 people including slaves, nobles, and senators for Senator Vibius. Senator Vibius had been spending millions of gold to increase the military power of Maven in secret. No one had a clue that Kingdom Maven had 2 or 3 times the size of other Senate-ruled kingdoms such as Giselle. He was amassing the military power to conquer the Stormvale Mountain. Even if all the Senate-ruled kingdoms formed an alliance to take the Stormvale Mountain from him after they conquered it, Senator Vibius had enough military power to defend the mountain for years. Those idiots have no idea what they have in their hands. Senator Vibius mumbled under his breath with an evil grin on his face. How many slaves working in the mine? Senator asked. 120 slaves, Your Majesty. Killing all of them and buying a new batch of slaves might raise a few eyebrows. Still, mining is a dangerous task. 10 or so slaves could die every month and new slaves could replace them, as he said. The senator made his way back the throne. Make sure none of the slaves currently mining leave the mine alive. The existence of these crystals must be kept secret at all costs. Also, make those scholars prepare a document saying the Stormvale Mountain originally belonged to Maven. Make sure the document looks ancient. Kill them after they finish the job. The Spartan soldier wasn't surprised at all. He expected the order before the senator actually said it. Senator Vibius was waiting for this moment for more than a decade. As far as the people of Maven knew, Senator Vibius came from a long family line of Serius. However, the Serius family was not always called Serius. The first ancestor who found the family came from a secret order. Only the main bloodline knew the existence of the order and the first ancestor's involvement in the secret order. Spartan hostess, to the outside world, we are just mining iron and minerals. Yes, Your Majesty, Spartan hostess bowed before leaving the throne hall. At the moment, the senator was sitting on the throne alone. He looked at the crystal in his hand. Then with the other hand, he clenched the medallion on his chest. He pulled the medallion with force. The medallion remained in his hand, radiating a dim glow. The coin-sized black medallion had nothing but a letter etched onto its surface, L. This medallion looked exactly the same as the medallion on Maxina's neck. Order of Death, Vibius snickered. The founding ancestor of the Sarius family was a member of the Order of Death. He was one of the few who survived the Guardians. But unlike others, Vibius' ancestor did not escape the Guardians. Rather, he was escorted to the southern continent safely by the Guardians because his ancestor was the man who betrayed the Order to the Guardians for wealth, power, and kingdom. Vibius' ancestor did not believe in the Dark Lord Lucifer, and neither did Vibius. As Vibius was looking at the medallion in his hand, another soldier entered the throne hall. He was not a Spartan but a normal soldier who wore full-plate armor and chainmail. "Your Majesty, His Lord Canis is here to see you." Vibius quickly put the medallion into his pocket before nodding at the soldier. Several minutes later, Vibius saw a man wearing black robes with a hood covering his head walking towards him. "Lord Canis," Vibius chuckled, standing up from his throne. "I'm sick of that name," the figure growled before slowly taking off the hood to reveal his golden shoulder-length hair, perfectly sculpted handsome face, and bluish eyes. "I'm sorry the name your superiors picked is not as good as your real name. Guardian Connors." Guardian Connors was none other than the man who was part of the Operation New Dawn organized by Peyton and Zanali. He was responsible for gathering information about Ghost and the man who killed Jack. Peyton had no idea that Connors killed Jack during his surveillance. Connors was able to blame the bandits in the forest. Since Operation New Dawn was an off-the-books operation, there was no investigation on Connors. After Peyton dismantled the team, each of the team members was welcomed into the guild as fully-fledged guardians. Afraid of Ghost finding of his involvement in Jack's death, Connors used his connections inside the guild to get himself assigned to a top-secret mission in the southern continent. "Tell me that's the crystal," Connors emphasized the word "the," raising his brows. He walked closer to Vibius to take a closer look at the crystal. "Should this be enough to convince the Guardians?" With a snicker, Vibius tossed the crystal towards Connors. The moment Connors caught the crystal in his hand, he felt a pulse of energy. He was completely stunned. He could yet again feel the arch-energy running through his energy veins. Arch-energy. Connors snapped his fingers as a spark of flame appeared above his fingers. Connors' mind went blank. "Impossible?" he mumbled. Though the energy inside the crystal was not enough to cast powerful spells, he could absorb the arch-energy from the crystal to perform simple spells which should be impossible considering the southern continent was void of any energies. "Not anymore, Guardian Connors. Now let's talk about how bigger the army the Guardians will send here for me to command." Chapter 397, Your Majesty. Just as the two of them were about to discuss the terms of their deal, a soldier entered the throne hall. Connors quickly hid the crystal with his robes. The senator gave the soldier a death glare as the soldier's face went pale behind his metal helmet. "What?" Vibius growled like an animal. "Senator Caius is here to meet you." Vibius was taken aback by surprise. He didn't receive any report of Caius' visit to Maven from Giselle ambassadors or his spies. "Why wasn't I informed about his visit?" Vibius asked the soldier. "Your Majesty, Senator Caius just suddenly appeared with another one. They are requesting an audience with you." Yet again Vibius was surprised by the soldier. He couldn't help but raise his brows. Even Connors, who was standing beside Vibius, had a frown on his face. "Weird," Vibius rubbed his chin. The soldier remained in the hall waiting for Vibius' orders. After pondering for a few moments, Connors opened his mouth. "The other guy you mentioned, does he pose a threat to the senator?" "No, my lord, they are both unarmed. The Spartans already confirmed they have no weapons on them." Connors listened to the soldier patiently. "What do you think, Lord Canis?" Vibius asked Connors. Connors was confident in his combat ability as he was trained by the best coaches in the Guardian Guild. In addition to his training, they had Spartans waiting outside the throne hall. If Caius or the other guy tried to do any harm, they would be dead before they could reach Vibius. Besides, if Connors could broker peace between the two kingdoms, his job of getting the crystals to the Guardians would be much easier. Otherwise, the Guardians would have to allocate resources such as an army and weapons to Maven to fight Giselle. "I say we should ask Caius why is he here." Vibius racked his brain for a few minutes before nodding at the soldier. Connors quickly put the crystal deep within his inner pocket. "Send them in, but make sure the Spartans are within a shouting range," Vibius ordered the soldier as the soldier bowed before leaving the throne hall. "What if Caius becomes a problem, Guardian Connors?" While they were waiting for Caius to enter the throne hall, Vibius asked Connors. "Then we deal with it in the Guardian way." Connors waved his hands casually. "And what is that?" "Solve the problem or make it disappear." The cold smile that emerged on Connor's face indicated the true meaning of his words. Vibius was thinking the same. If Caius became too much of a nuisance, he was planning to assassinate Caius. It would be difficult to assassinate a head senator in his own kingdom, but Vibius had connections with the Grim Reapers. Only a handful of few knew the existence of Grim Reapers in the southern continent. Vibius was one of those few people. The two of them were already planning on killing Caius. They had zero clues that the Dark Lord himself was coming to greet them. After waiting for the guests to appear for a few minutes, Vibius finally saw Caius wearing a white toga and golden laurel on his head walking towards him with a tall youngster in a long grey coat and black pants. His dress was not of a southern noble but was similar to Connor's robes. He seemed like he came from one of the Cultivation continents. Nonetheless, Vibius paid little attention to the youngster because no matter who he was or where he came from, when he stepped inside the void line, he was nothing but a mere mortal. Vibius put on a fake smile to welcome Caius. Vibius noticed the fake smile on Caius' face as well as the cold sweat drop on his forehead. Senator Caius, I didn't expect you to visit me suddenly. Vibius and Caius shook their hands as Connor stared at the youngster behind Caius. He had an uneasy feeling in his gut. Connors noticed the youngster looking at Vibius but soon, his gaze slowly turned towards him. Ouch! When Vibius was shaking Caius' hands, he suddenly let out a muffled cry. Connors was shocked. Still, before Connors could react, he saw the youngster behind Caius suddenly disappear. His mind went blank as he felt a sharp pain. Within a second after he felt the sharp pain, everything around him turned dark. Arg! Connors let out a moan, slowly regaining his consciousness. He tried to move his arms and legs but he simply couldn't. He opened his eyes, fighting the pain in his head. Finally he's awake. Connors was not sure what he just heard. The voice he just heard didn't sound like a human. Struggling to move his body, he opened his eyes to see nothing but an endless ocean around him. The half-moon and the millions of stars in the sky were the only light source. He looked down at his hands to see his hands and legs are tied up with ropes. He gritted his teeth trying to get himself out of the ropes. Don't bother. While Connors was trying to get himself out of the ropes, he heard a voice from behind. This time the voice sounded human. HRGH. Connors growled as he turned back to see a Spartan soldier behind him. The Spartan soldier was in no better shape than him. His hands and legs were tied using ropes too. If it wasn't for the red cape, golden chest armor as well as a crimson-red tunic, Connors wouldn't have recognized the man as a Spartan. The red feather-covered helmet indicated that the man was not a mere soldier but someone who held high rank in the Spartan army. At the moment, the Spartan's ranking didn't help him as he also remained a prisoner. Connors then turned his gaze away from the Spartan and saw several other figures kneeling on the floor with their hands and legs tied. Looking at their togas and golden laurels on their heads, Connors could tell all of them were nobles. Vibius, Connors mumbled when he saw Vibius among the nobles. However, Vibius didn't notice Connors as all the nobles had their eyes covered with a cloth. Except for him and the Spartan, everyone had a cloth around their eyes. What happened? Connors asked himself. He tried to recall what just happened. One moment, he was in the throne hall looking at the youngster behind Caius, and the next moment, he felt a sharp pain and then he woke up here. His memory was clouded. He tried his best to clear out the fog. As he thought deeply, he remembered the youngster suddenly vanishing into thin air. For a few moments, Connors just looked around to see where he was. Even though they were on the upper deck of a ship, Connors saw no crew members. In addition to the lack of crews, he also noticed the lack of cannons around him. The upper deck was void of any cannons. Where are we? Connors asked the Spartan. The Spartan soldier looked around before sighing. The better question is, how did we end up here? Where were you before this? The Spartan soldier asked. Connors didn't immediately answer the Spartan. Despite the confusion of how he ended up here, Connors was able to tell that he was either poisoned to lose consciousness and transported here or he was teleported. But the latter possibility seemed impossible as no one could use teleportation within the void line. Hence, Connors bet on the poison theory, which made sense as he felt a sharp pain like a bee sting in the back of the neck before he lost consciousness. Connors couldn't trust the Spartan. What if the Spartan was one of those who kidnapped him? Suddenly Connors realized something as he quickly touched his chest. Shit, Connors cursed out loud. When he touched his pockets, he couldn't find the crystal inside. If you are searching for a weapon, don't. They stripped all the weapons, the Spartan told Connors. "I'm not looking for any weapon," Connors growled. His mind disregarded the possibility of him being teleported. Instead, he thought someone poisoned him and transported him with the others to the ship. "You have no idea who you are messing with." Suddenly Connors shouted loudly. He was so pissed as he wanted to kill whoever kidnapped him. "I tried that," the Spartan soldier shook his head. "Shut up, Spartan," Connors snickered. As far as Connors was concerned, Spartans were nothing but glorified slaves to the senators. They were pawns. "Did you hear the voice?" Connors asked the Spartan as he nodded. "It didn't sound human, did it?" the Spartan asked. The Spartan seemed to be more worried about something else than escaping his bonds, unlike Connors. Connors was struggling and trying to bite the ropes that tied his arms. A guardian? While Connors was struggling to escape from the ropes, he yet again heard the animalistic voice. This time he heard the voice coming from above him. The Spartan and Connors looked at the sky as their eyes immediately went wide open. Their jaws dropped a couple of inches down in complete shock. What? Connors couldn't believe his eyes. A figure enveloped in a black cloud of smoke was slowly descending to the ship. His heart skipped a beat as he started to shiver. He kinda recognized the figure. He had seen the vague images resembling the figure on Peyton's board during the New Dawn operation. "Lucifer," Connors mumbled as the dark figure landed on the ship. The black smoke enveloped the armor, but Connors could vaguely see the black armor and the crimson-red eyes. The last time he talked to Peyton before ending the New Dawn operation, Peyton told him Lucifer had been dealt with. He believed Peyton because she also told him the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians herself came to apprehend Lucifer. Since the Guardians kept the matter of Lucifer extremely secret, he couldn't get any more information. Plus, he was too busy partying and spending his time in the arms of beauties to think about Lucifer. Chapter 398. The senators who had their eyes covered looked around bewildered after hearing Michael's voice. Meanwhile, Connors and the Spartans stared at Michael with their eyes wide open. Their eyes were glued to him as he landed on the deck. When he landed on the deck, he flicked his wrist as a tall, frightening throne made of skull and bones materialized on the deck. The 6 senators, including Vibius, were trying to see what was happening. "What? Where?" Vibius growled. He kept struggling against the ropes to free himself. Connors couldn't believe his eyes. He had heard about Lucifer and seen sketches of him, yet in reality, he looked more menacing. The skull mask on his face was a dead giveaway of his identity as Lucifer. Both of their eyes were glued to him. They saw him leisurely sitting on his throne, leaning back and putting his leg on the other. His crimson eyes landed on Connors. At this moment, they heard a creaking noise coming from behind. They looked over their shoulders to see a gray-haired man walking towards Lucifer. Connors could tell the man had some kind of injury in his leg looking at the man's gait. He was slightly limping. Surprisingly, the man didn't seem like a prisoner of Lucifer. Rather, he seemed like Lucifer's minion. "My lord," he bowed, standing before Lucifer. "Take off his blind." Connors saw Lucifer pointing his finger at Vibius. "Who are you?" Regardless of the shock, the Spartan soldier was brave enough to question Michael. "I should ask you the same, Spartan Captain Decimus. Who are you?" Lucifer added, tilting his head. The Spartan didn't understand Lucifer's question. Thus, he had a bewildered look on his face. "Your job was to follow orders, Spartan. Not poke your nose into where it doesn't belong. When you chose to do that, you put yourself and the others in danger." Spartan's heartbeat gradually raised as they heard another creaking voice from behind. As Connors turned his head behind, he surprisingly saw a woman dragging another woman in a red tunic towards Lucifer. She had a baby covered in cloth in her arms. "Dilia!" The Spartan immediately cried out loud, looking at the woman in the red tunic. She was being dragged by her hand by another woman in a gray long coat. His wife didn't move at all as she seemed to have lost consciousness. "Let her go." The Spartan growled as he violently struggled against the ropes to escape, but no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't untie the ropes. The senators were trying to make sense of what was happening by hearing the shouts and Lucifer's words. At this moment, Gibson finally took off Vibius' blindfold to let him see everything. Vibius' vision wasn't clear. Everything in front of him was blurry. He also felt an urge to throw up, but he was able to control the urge. When his vision finally cleared, he was stunned by the black figure sitting on the throne. His heart skipped a beat. The figure's crimson-red eyes were not on him but on the Spartan. Vibius did not recognize the Spartan, yet he quickly recognized Connors. "You bastard! I will kill you!" The Spartan kept screaming while Maxine was dragging the Spartan's wife towards Lucifer. "Kill me? Ha ha ha," Michael burst into laughter. He grabbed the unconscious wife of the Spartan, lifting her up by her neck. He stood up from his throne while Maxine remained by his side with the baby in her arms. Gibson was moving his head, staring at both Lucifer and the Spartan. "It will take me less than a second to snap her neck right this instant." Holding her in one hand, Michael ran his index finger through her face. A red line appeared along the way as blood slowly started to seep through the cut. The Spartan was struggling more and more violently. Connors saw the Spartan trying to stand up but fell onto the floor ultimately. Still, the Spartan kept trying. Gibson felt pity for the Spartan. This is what happens when you try to be what you're not supposed to be. Don't hurt her. The Spartan's rage in his voice disappeared completely when he saw Lucifer take the baby in his arms. Compared to his 7-foot stature and bulky armor, the baby seemed tiny in his arms. Even Gibson's heart skipped a beat when he saw the baby in Lucifer's arms. Michael placed his hand on the baby's tiny head. Everyone could tell the baby and the mother was sedated as they remained without moving a muscle. "Tell me, Spartan, is the investigation more important than the lives of your beloved wife and the newborn child?" Connors had no idea about what the hell was Lucifer talking about. However, Vibius knew about the investigation the Spartan captain was conducting. His spies reported to him about the Decimus investigation of what happened during Senator Viridius' daughter's marriage. The entire Senate of Giselle was wiped off that day except for Caius. The Spartan captain was conducting an investigation to find out what truly happened that day. He suspected Senator Caius had a hand in that explosion which took the lives of all the senators, their families as well as many nobles. Decimus had received threatening letters from unknown people asking him to drop the investigation. Still, Decimus continued his investigation. "What was your endgame plan, Spartan Decimus?" As he asked the Spartan, Michael lifted the wife by her neck. In one hand, he held the baby, in the other, he held the mother. Vibius' neck moved in the direction of Lucifer. He was too stunned to utter a word. Until now, he didn't believe in the existence of the so-called Dark Lord whom the Order of Death believed in so much. Spartan Decimus kept struggling as Lucifer came in front of him. Connors was able to see Lucifer so close. The dark cloud of smoke faded away, revealing his metal armor. The intricate black armor had a skull on the chest. The armor looked both sturdy and flexible. There was not a single place that exposed what was underneath the armor. Each step he took towards them produced a heavy thud sound. Maxine followed him behind. "Get him up," Connors heard Lucifer order the woman behind him. The woman quickly stepped forward to get behind the Spartan. Then she grabbed the Spartan by his shoulder, making him stand straight up. "Take off his helmet." The woman quickly lifted off Decimus' helmet to reveal his clean-shaven face. Decimus had shoulder-length dirty brown hair. Due to his clean-shaven look, the scars on his face were visible. At the moment, his hazel eyes looked bloodshot red because of the overwhelming anger and helplessness. "What are you?" Decimus growled as Michael let go of Dilia's neck. She fell onto the wooden floor, making a thud sound. Michael could hear Decimus' heart pound against his chest. He wanted to teach this idiot Spartan a lesson. Michael couldn't care less of who's getting promoted among the Spartans. As far as he was concerned, they were supposed to follow the order of Caius and help him take over the southern continent in the future. Imagine his surprise when he heard from Caius that a nobody Spartan got promoted after the death of the previous Spartan captain, and started to conduct an investigation on what happened at Viridius' daughter's marriage. Since there was no international court of law in the southern continent like on Earth, he knew the Spartan captain was collecting evidence to show the people and nobles and get himself elected as the head senator in the election. He was looking to replace Caius, which made Michael kidnap Decimus and his family along with all the senators of Maven Kingdom. "Dilia!" Yet again Decimus screamed, looking at his wife on the ground. Normally Michael wouldn't hurt innocents such as the Spartan's wife or the baby, but this time he made an exception. He wanted to teach Decimus a lesson. The very next moment, while Decimus was struggling to bend down and pick his wife up, Michael put his boot on her neck. He did not put any pressure but placed his boot on her neck. "Bast pulch!" Decimus' shout was interrupted by a punch to his gut. The punch had enough power to create a fist-shaped dent in his armor as well as cough out mouth full of blood. The blood oozed out of Decimus' mouth. Connors looked up at the Spartan to see his eyes closing and opening. He seemed to be struggling to stay awake. "Look at your beloved wife under my feet. I can squeeze the life out of her in front of your very eyes. Michael moved his boots, pretending to press her throat with his boot. However, he didn't put any pressure at all. He would hurt Decimus for the trouble he caused for Caius but never intended to hurt innocents like Dilia or her child. However, he wanted the Spartan, Connors, and Vibius to think that he would go any length to destroy his enemies. Stop, stop. Please, the Spartan breathed heavily. There was no anger in his voice. He was pleading with Michael. I will teach you a precious lesson today. Decimus. Every action has a reaction. When he flicked his wrist, Connor saw a Ling syringe appear in his hand. No pulch. Decimus received another punch to his gut. This time, the blood and saliva came spraying out of his mouth. Maxine grabbed Decimus' hair, keeping his head straight so he could look at Lucifer and the baby. Shit, Gibson cursed as he saw Lucifer injecting the needle into the baby's tiny arm. He was stunned completely as he started to sweat. He knew Lucifer was ruthless, but he had never imagined he would be cruel and ruthless enough to hurt a newborn child. Please, the words barely escaped Decimus' mouth. Connors was not a big fan of Spartans, but even he felt pity for Decimus at the moment. Your child will have the poison running through his veins all his life because of your mistake. With a snap of my fingers, I can activate the poison and end his life just like that. Connors felt a chill running through his spine. If Lucifer could do that to a baby, Connors couldn't even imagine what he's gonna do to the grown-ups like them. As for your wife, Michael looked down at Dilia before turning his gaze back at the Spartan. She will make a great snack for the sharks, Pulch. Before even the words could sink into Decimus' mind, Michael punched him so hard on the head, immediately knocking him out. The senators who heard his words, including Vibius, shivered in fear. Gibson's legs kept shivering. Gibson never thought Lucifer would suddenly turn back to look at him. When his crimson-red eyes landed on his entire body shuddered. Clean this up, Michael gave a simple order before walking back to his throne. On his way to the throne, he could see the fear in Vibius' eyes. By the look in their eyes, his tactics worked. For them, the wife's gonna end up as shark food, but in reality, Maxine would drop Decimus, his child, and the wife in a faraway kingdom from Giselle with enough gold coins to start a new life with a warning from Lucifer. Of course, Decimus would be placed under surveillance. Nonetheless, he would never be able to step on Giselle ever again or show his face. Hi, my wonderful readers. This day completes my 2 years journey as an author. I want to thank all my wonderful readers for supporting me until now. Your comments, reviews, and criticisms not only boosted my happiness but also made me a better writer. I am extremely happy and honored to announce that my third book, Rise of the Legendary Emperor, will be released 23rd of this month. And I'm happier to announce that my next adventure, Dictator with a Badass System, will be released this month. I hope every one of you would continue to lend me your support. The schedule of HBS will not be affected in any way by the new novel. Please show me your support by leaving your comment under this chapter. This is my life now, so I hope everyone will stick with me and support me. Always your goofy author, Don_Full. Chapter 399. After sending Decimus, Dilia, and their baby down into the lower decks, Michael sat on the throne. His throne was located just before the captain's cabin. The senators were lined up in front of him. They were made to kneel down. Connors remained a couple of meters back from the senators. Where are we? Let us go. Whoever you are, you just made a huge mistake. Few of the senators dared to threaten Michael. Since they were blindfolded, they didn't see his frightening figure. At the moment, Michael's full focus was on Vibius and Connors. Of course, Michael had no idea about Connors' deeds. If he knew Connors killed Jack, Connors would have been bleeding on the floor. While he was waiting for Gibson and Maxine, Michael closed his eyes, calming himself down. He could feel the bloodlust inside him yet again. System, when will you have the answers to my problems? Michael asked the system. When he upgraded the system, he thought he would have his answers. However, the system asked him to upgrade it once again, but the system gave him no guarantee that it would have answers for his third persona problem if he upgraded it. He was asking questions related to his bloodlust. He got no answers except the system's notification, asking him to upgrade it. Please upgrade the system. System level is too low to answer the host. What about the other matter? Do you have the schematics and the parts? Of course, the schematics and the parts would cost the host 10,000 badass points. After upgrading Inventor skill to star level 4, he got 200,000 badass points. To upgrade the skill to 5 star, The system required 180,000 points. Because he had to go to a new realm, he decided to save enough points. The 10,000 points for the schematics and the parts were absolutely necessary. The device in his mind required one important resource that he lacked until now. If he could build the device, it would give him a huge advantage over the Guardians in the southern continent. If I'm right, I can build 7 devices with the parts. But I still need more of them to make the device work. As he was thinking about the new device, he saw Gibson and Maxine climb out of the lower decks. Gibson seemed more relaxed. When he issued the order to kill Delia, Michael noticed Gibson's face become pale. Obviously, Gibson was questioning his judgment to follow Lucifer at that moment. Although Gibson was a pirate, he wasn't cutthroat or an evil person. Michael knew he was a soldier before becoming a pirate. If he ordered to kill Decimus, Gibson wouldn't have felt a thing because Decimus was trying to screw things up for Michael. But Delia and the baby were innocent, they did nothing to him. Hence, when Michael ordered Maxine to kill Delia and injected the baby with something, Gibson was startled. As usual, Michael expected everything. Hence, he ordered Maxine to reveal everything to Gibson when they were away from the senators. He was ruthless but not evil to inject the baby with poison. Decimus would forever be afraid of Lucifer, thinking his child could die any moment if he messed with Lucifer again. The child, however, was injected with nothing but water. "It's done, my lord." When she came to his side, Maxine said with enough volume to let everyone hear her. She stood on his right side while Gibson stood on the left side. "Take off their blindfolds," Michael asked as Maxine nodded before making her way to the senators. In a few moments, she removed all the blindfolds, letting the senators finally take a look at where they are and who they are dealing with. The 5 senators blinked several times to make their vision clear. After a few moments, their eyes landed on Lucifer. Gasp! The moment they saw him sitting on his frightening throne made of skulls and bones, they gasped in shock. Their bodies began to shiver. "Shut their mouths, they don't need to speak," Michael ordered Maxine. While they were still in shock, Maxine used the cloth that was used as the blindfold to cover their mouth. Not him and him. When she was about to wrap the blindfold around Vibius' mouth, he stopped her. The other senators turned sideways to see Vibius. They were slightly relieved for a moment, but seeing Vibius was also tied just like the rest of them, they started to panic. Senator Vibius and Guardian Connors was stunned as black lines appeared on his forehead. He couldn't guess how Lucifer knew about his identity. Instinctively, he looked down to see his space ring missing. Michael stared at the scared faces of the senators for a few moments. On second thoughts, with a flick of his wrist, he took syringes filled with emerald green liquid out of his space ring. Some of the senators squirmed in fear. Connors and Vibius stared at the syringes slowly floating towards the senators. They stopped in the air a couple of inches away from the senators for a moment. Pulch! Then several seconds later, each of the senators was stabbed by a syringe. In a few blinks of an eye, all the senators collapsed onto the floor. Vibius felt dread in his core. He wasn't sure if they were alive or dead. Since he saw issuing an order to kill a commoner and poisoning a baby, Vibius didn't lean much on the side of the senators being alive. "You've been a bad boy, Senator Vibius. Sending troops to harass the border soldiers of Giselle, ordering the soldiers to wipe out a few villages, buying hundreds of slaves, and robbing people of their freedoms, the list goes on." He was disgusted by Vibius. The only reason Michael had not killed him yet was the item he received from Vibius. He then turned his gaze towards Connors. "Tell me, Guardian Connors, you people calling me evil demon and dark lord. Is he not evil?" Michael pointed at Vibius. "He would have been evil if he wasn't much use to your guild, am I right?" The Guardian Guild disgusted him the most, even more than Vibius or any slave traders in southern continent. If he could, he would wipe out the entire Guardian Guild in front of Noah and Andreas' eyes. He wanted to prove the Guardian Guild was nothing but a corrupted organization filled with scumbags. Compared to them, the Order of Death didn't look evil at all. Connor didn't answer but stared at him without uttering a word. He was thinking of a way to leave this place alive. As far as Connor could tell, if Lucifer could kill an innocent woman and poison her baby, killing him would not be hard at all. As he was remaining without uttering a word, he saw the woman walking towards him. Bam! Vibius saw Connor's 2 molars flying out of his mouth along with blood and saliva. Maxine's punch was so powerful that it made Connor's face hit the ground hard. "Lord Lucifer asked you a question." Cough. Cough. Arg. Connors coughed up a mouthful of blood. He felt an excruciating pain in his mouth due to the sudden removal of the molars. "I know I am right," Michael calmly said. He didn't mind Maxine punching Connors. Her loyalty and the way she acted made him happy. She was shaping up to be a loyal and powerful bodyguard. Her loyalty to him was unparalleled. Just his look was enough for her to understand his intentions. She was one of the reasons that he wanted to build the device as soon as possible before he leaves for Akilan Realm. "The two of you should tell me everything you know about this." Michael flicked his wrist yet again. This time, instead of a syringe, the crystal Vibius received appeared in his hand. After he reached Maven, he planned to kidnap all the senators and subdue them except Vibius. When he sent the spiders into Vibius Manor, he was surprised to see the senator talking with a guardian. What surprised him more was the crystal he saw in Connor's hands. While they were unconscious, Michael was studying the crystal. It was pure arch-energy. He had never expected to see a pure arch-energy source such as the crystal. Unlike Vibius and Connors were thinking, the crystal did not contain arch-energy within. The crystal itself was arch-energy. The crystal was a crystallized form of arch-energy. A pure source of arch-energy was the object that he lacked to build a device that would enable all of Michael's subordinates to use spells in the southern continent. The crystallized arch-energy could not be directly absorbed completely. The arch-energy radiation could help cultivators cast weak spells. That's how Connors was able to conjure fire sparks holding the crystal. The device Michael was planning to build would help the subordinates or whoever wearing the device absorbs arch-energy. This would help them cultivate in the southern continent without crossing the void line. If his subordinates absorbed enough arch-energy from the crystal with the help of his device, they could reach the body-strengthening stage. The higher stages of cultivation would require them to absorb thousands of crystal stones such as the one in his hand. Unless there was another type or more powerful crystals in the place where Vibius got the crystal, giving subordinates thousands of crystals would not be very efficient. "Where did you get this crystal?" Michael asked. His voice was cold as it sent a chill running through Vibius' spine. Vibius' heart shuddered. The crystal was supposed to be his way to reach the top in life. He planned to use the crystals as a bargaining chip to get help from the Guardians and conquer all the southern continent. However, if Lucifer took over the Stormvale Mountain, his dream of becoming the ruler of the southern continent would be shattered. Vibius was stuck in a conundrum. If he didn't tell where he got the crystal, Lucifer would take over the mountain, which would make him the ruler of the southern continent. If he did not tell him, Lucifer would either torture him or just kill him. "I can lie to him or tell him the truth, but what if he kills me afterward?" Vibius questioned himself. In a split second he had an idea. "Unless I make him trust me." The medallion of the Order of Death appeared in his mind. Chapter 400. I am. Order of Death. My lord, Vibius stuttered. Michael was bewildered. Maxine stared at Vibius in shock. No one should know about the order unless they were high up in the Guardian Guild. Vibius didn't seem like he held any position in the Guardian Guild. "I can prove myself." Vibius' words confused Connors. He was wondering what the hell Order of Death is. "My inner pocket." Vibius looked down at his chest. Michael gave Maxine a nod to take whatever was inside his pocket. After taking the crystal from unconscious Connors, he was too focused on the crystal as he didn't bother to search Vibius. Yet he ordered Gibson to do a thorough search, but it seemed Gibson failed the task a bit. First Maxine ran her hand through Vibius' chest, shoulder, and arms to find if he had any weapons hidden. Making sure he had none, she put her hand inside Vibius' toga. Surprisingly, Maxine found a hidden pocket in his toga. The tiny pocket was very well hidden. No wonder Gibson failed to find the pocket, Maxine thought. "My lord," a moment later, Michael saw Maxine's eyes open wide in shock. He looked at her hand to see a glowing coin. The coin looked exactly the same as the medallion he found on Maxine's neck when he first fought her. Connors stared at the woman handing over the glowing coin to Lucifer. Gibson, on the other hand, wondered why Vibius was not able to rip off the ropes that tied his hands. He knew the medallion on her chest is the reason for her monstrous strength. If he used the ropes to tie Maxine, she would rip it off in a mere second. Vibius could have done the same if he had worn the medallion from his birth. He kept the medallion in a locker instead of wearing it. His ancestor worried that the medallion was making the wearer a slave to the Dark Lord. Hence, Vibius chose not to wear it just in case. Plus, he never believed in the Dark Lord's existence. In his mind, he thought it was all made up by the elders of the Order to scare people into submission. After all, He knew fear makes people submit. For a few moments, Michael just stared at the glowing medallion on his palm. He could feel the pulsating energy coming from within the coin. The energy pulses were not as strong as Maxine's coin. Somehow the medallion felt weaker than Maxine's. Anyway, this proved Vibius was one of the descendants of the elders who survived the Guardian attack. Before seeing the medallion, Maxine wanted to end Vibius' life. She started to have as the medallion basically made them brother and sister in arms. Loyalty to the Dark Lord and the fellow members of the Order was what made the Order so powerful enough to rule the world from shadows for centuries. But a betrayal from one elder collapsed the entire Order as though it was a house made of cards. Your ancestor, Damien Zane. We are the Zane family. My lord, Vibius hoped the Dark Lord don't know about his ancestor's secret deals with the Guardians. Only one in the world knew about Damien's betrayal, and it wasn't the Dark Lord. You are a descendant of my worshippers. Vibius saw him rub his chin. Since you are a descendant, I'll let go of your sins. But only if you tell me where did you get the crystal, obviously. The crystal was found in Stormvale Mountain. Why else would Vibius have sent his troops to occupy the mountain despite the peace talks and agreements? Still, Michael wanted to hear it from Vibius, just to make sure he was telling the truth. Stormvale Mountain, my lord. I can show you the operation. Vibius was not an idiot to lie to the Dark Lord. If he was right, the Dark Lord would already know about his attack on Stormvale Castle. He always had a weird feeling about what happened in Giselle. The entire Senate wiped out in an explosion. Caius being the sole survivor and then him replacing the Senate with his underlings seemed too coincidental. The Dark Lord definitely had a hand in what happened in Giselle. Everything that happened a few moments earlier made sense to Vibius. He was able to quickly connect the dots. Caius must be Dark Lord's man. The Dark Lord took out the senator for Caius. Decimus started an investigation to prove what happened that day. The Dark Lord found out through Caius about the investigation, and the rest was history. How big is the operation? Who else knows about the crystals? 120 slaves are mining the crystals as we speak, my lord. Except you and me. Only Guardian Connors and my Spartan Captain Hostus knows about the existence of the crystals. Michael could hear a hesitation every time Vibius addressed him as my lord. He then turned his gaze towards Connors. Guardian Connors, did you tell anyone about the crystals? Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians, no. They must be looking for me as we speak. Connors didn't show any fear in his voice. The way he saw it, he had very little chance of getting out of the ship alive unless he could make Lucifer think he has to keep him alive. If the Alpha Guardian was searching for him, Lucifer might decide to keep him hostage. Every Guardian undertaking a secret mission had a handler assigned to them. Connor's handler was in Maven, and every night, Connors had to report to him. If he didn't, the handler would know something happened to him and look for him. The last time Connors met the handler, he told the handler he was going to meet with Vibius. Hence, the handler would definitely start to look for him from Vibius Manor. If Vibius was spared by Lucifer, the handler would investigate him and hopefully realize something was wrong. Otherwise, the handler would investigate both Vibius and his disappearance. These investigations would often lead to calling the Hunter Guardians, who were specialized in tracking and investigating. Connors just hoped the hunters would somehow find him. All he had to do was stay alive until they did. Is that so? Connors heard him chuckle. Michael already decided what to do with the Guardian. Therefore, he wasn't worried about whether he was lying or not. He turned his gaze back at Vibius. Are you willing to serve me and honor your ancestors, Vibius Zane? Gibson had a bad feeling in his gut. When Caius was telling about what Vibius was doing to amass military power, he saw Lucifer's eyes flicker in red. This often led to a death or multiple deaths. Yes, my lord, Vibius heaved a sigh of relief inside. He just needed to get out of the ship, sneak past the Dark Lord's security measure if he had any, warn the Guardians, and help them kill the Dark Lord. Thousands of years ago, his ancestor destroyed the Order, and now he was presented with an opportunity to cut the head of the snake. As far as Vibius was concerned, the Dark Lord pushed him to do this. Good. Let me welcome you to the Order with a little gift. Michael stood up from his throne. As he was walking towards Vibius, he flicked his wrist. In a few blinks of an eye, several syringes appeared yet again. The bluish syringes immediately stabbed the senators who were on the ground in the neck. Their eyes were abruptly opened. Their bodies shuddered as though they were hit with an electric bolt. The senators didn't dare to utter a word because Lucifer was standing so close to them. They were afraid of pissing off this monster. Michael lifted Vibius from the ground by his shoulder with one hand. He then ripped off the ropes that tied his hands while a blade of wind cut the ropes that tied his legs. Senators of Maven, we have a proposition for you. Michael placed his hand on Vibius' shoulder, talking to the senators. Their eyes were glued to Lucifer. You have two choices. The first choice, swear you loyalty to me and you will not only get out of here with your lives but also get rich and powerful. Michael paused for a moment before continuing. The second choice, you can choose not to swear your loyalty and you can hope someone would come and save you from me. Vibius saw Lucifer's hand slowly moving from his shoulder to neck, like our Senator Vibius here. The very next moment, the senators saw Lucifer clutch Vibius' neck. He lifted Vibius off the ground by his neck as Vibius began to squirm in his hand. HRGGM. Michael's hold was too strong as Vibius' face turned purple in a few mere moments. He was hoping the Guardians would come and rescue him. The man behind you is a Guardian and I see no one coming to save him. The senators looked over their shoulders to see a woman holding a knife against the youngster's throat. Let me show you what will happen when you go with the second choice. The surrounding air became a bit chilly as he spoke in his cold voice. Pulch. Suddenly Michael punched Vibius in the chest. For a moment, Connor's eyes closed when the blood splashed on his face. As he opened his eyes, he felt a chill running through his spine. Lucifer's hand was sticking out of Vibius' back. In his hand, he saw the beating heart that oozed blood on the ground. Vibius was violently shaking in his arms, but his body gradually stopped squirming as the light of light slowly left his eyes. One of the senators couldn't help shouting in fear. Michael put the lifeless body of Vibius on the ground before stepping towards the senators. The heart was still in his hand. Time to make your choice. Senators, Creech. Michael crushed the heart in his hand, spraying blood on their faces. Their faces were as pale as a white sheet. He could even see one senator wet his toga in utter terror. You are next, darling. Connors heard the woman whisper into his ear before everything turned dark. Chapter 401. In the eastern border that separated Giselle and Maven, Stormvale Mountain stood tall. The mountain range was almost 1,000 miles long and reached 40,000 feet at its highest point, and many of its slopes were extremely treacherous. Most of the lower range was covered in a dense forest. Not even a single ray of sunlight peeked through the stormy clouds above the mountain. The howling sound of the wind created an ominous feel around the mountain along with the stormy weather. Hence, the name Stormvale Mountain. The upper regions of the mountain frequently experienced heavy rain with violent mini-cyclones. There was no paved road to the mountain. The area around the mountain had a grayish color due to the storm clouds. The trees in the forest were frantically waving in the wind. My lord, Michael sat on his sofa in the airship, looking at the mountain in the distance through the window when he heard Maxine. Gibson has reached the Witch's Island. After dealing with Vibius and the senators, Michael sent Gibson to the Witch's Island. They were stationed near the island as it was a short journey for Gibson to the Witch's Island. Michael teleported the senators to Maven before teleporting himself and Maxine back into the airship. Currently, he was on his way to see Stormvale Mountain. He took a 3-hour meditation break which gave enough time for the senators to withdraw the soldiers from the Stormvale Mountain. It looks freaky, my lord. Maxine bent her back to look through the window. The howling wind coupled with thunderclaps and lightning streaks in the sky would make anyone feel terrific or at least some dread in their core. The tallest peak of the mountain could not be seen as it passed through the clouds in the sky. The tallest mountain on the earth would look like a boulder in front of Stormvale Mountain. He could feel the airship begin to shake due to the stormy wind. As they got closer to the mountain, the louder the noise of heavy rain hitting the roof sounded. Regardless that this was the middle of the day, it looked as though late evening because of the darkness. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning flashed in the dark sky and thunders shook the air. The airship soon started to shake violently. Maxine almost lost her balance. She quickly grabbed onto the sofa and steadied herself. My lord, we can't fly any further without risking a crash landing. Caius came running to them. Tell him to stop the airship and go back to Giselle. Michael stood up from his sofa. But my lord, Caius seemed reluctant to leave them in the Stormvale Mountain. This mountain range was one of the most dangerous places in the southern continent. Countless travelers and soldiers lost their lives in the terrain. Still, they were not Lucifer and Maxine. While I'm away, use this to communicate with the other senators. With a flick of his wrist, he took an earpiece from his space ring. All the other senators were given an earpiece so they could talk to Caius. In addition to earpieces, they were also wearing spy cam pendants. Hence, Azazel could monitor them 24/7. If they tried to remove the pendant, the venom inside the Siddercam would be injected into them, taking their lives instantly. Michael made his way towards the door as Maxine followed him behind. He stood before the door before wrapping his arm around Maxine's slender waist. He pulled her closer as he opened the door. The moment the door was opened, a powerful force of wind almost pushed them backward. Without wasting any time, he jumped out of the airship wind blast in the mid-air. He turned his back, sending a blast of wind to shut the door behind him. Ah! Maxine couldn't hold her screams. She hugged him tightly and closed her eyes. Her hair and long coat were fluttering violently, but they soon got drenched in the rain. Lightning dash. He cast the spell to quicken his pace. No matter how many times he flew, he could never get used to the fact that he's actually flying like a Superman. The feeling of flying was magical. The lush green forest below them was covered by a hazy fog. The wind and rain brushed past his face so fast that it made him close his eyes occasionally. As they got closer to the mountain, the sight of the gigantic mountain frightened him. They looked so miniature in front of the mountain. He noticed a few figures on the ground. Quickly he flew away before anyone could notice him. Not that anyone could with the stormy weather. Land, thank God. When her feet touched the ground, she heaved a sigh of relief. Get used to flying because, he let her go. Soon you will fly. For a moment, she looked frightened. Still, she nodded, controlling her fear of flying. They were currently standing on a narrow path between the forest and the mountain's footsteps. They noticed several figures in ragged clothes or naked walking out of the mountain. He must be Hostis. He looked at the Spartan soldier who was overseeing the slaves. The soldier was staring at a parchment. In his focus on the parchment, the Spartan almost failed to hear the footsteps of Michael and Maxine. One could not blame the Spartan for not hearing the footsteps because the howling sound of the wind and the heavy rain would prevent anyone from hearing the sound of footsteps. Spartan Hostis, the Spartan shuddered hearing the sudden voice. Who are you? You shouldn't be here. The Spartan reached for his scimitar hanging on his waist. Calm down, Spartan. Senator Vibius sent us. The Spartan frowned. Despite the golden helmet with a huge red feather, Michael could still notice the frown on his face. Still, he couldn't see his face completely, but he never cared about how the Spartan looked under the helmet. I never heard anything about someone visiting the mountain from Senator Vibius. Hostis' hand was still on the hilt of his scimitar. Obviously, he didn't believe them. Senator gave us this. Michael slowly put his hand inside his coat pocket as the Spartan stared at him without batting an eye. See, when Hostis saw Michael taking out the crystal, he was stunned. We don't have much time to play around, Spartan. Giselle's Spartan army is on its way here. Michael handled situations like this before back on Earth. When the opposite person was in doubt, rushed them, giving them no time to think. Until he learned as much as he could from Hostis about the mining operation, he didn't want to kill him. That was the reason Hostis was still alive. What? Spartan army? Shit. You can mumble later, Spartan. Now we have a job to do. Tell me you finished evacuating the slaves as your order said you to. The parchment in Hostis' hand contained signed letters of the senators Michael spared. It was a pity he didn't get a signed letter from Vibius before killing him. Since he did not need Vibius for much, he didn't bother. Maxine thought the sole reason for Vibius' death was his sins. However, that was only one of the reasons. The other reason was Vibius' loyalty level. When the system prompted him whether he wanted Vibius as his subordinate or not, Vibius' loyalty level was at 0.2%. Vibius had everything and craved too much power. Raising his loyalty would be a headache, and his gut feeling told him to kill Vibius because Vibius had gone too far with his killings of innocents and slaves. There was no way Michael would make such a murderous psycho his subordinate. Yes, those are the last of them. The order said I have to send them to the Giselle border. What if those slaves tried to escape? Hostis asked as Michael made his way to the mine entrance. Don't bother, we have bigger things to worry about. Show me the mining site inside. Spartan Hostis fastened his steps to walk forward. As they walked deeper into the mine, the darker it became. Only a few torches hanging on the wall were their light source. Anything I should know before those assholes come here to check the place? What assholes, my lord? Hostis addressed him as my lord. Coupled with the fact his attitude, the fact that he has the crystal indicated the youngster was someone from a high place, perhaps a noble related to Vibius. There is a group of guardians coming. Peace talk or some shit like that. We need to make sure they do not find out about the existence of these crystals. Michael was making stuff up as he walked. Guardians.
Hostess was stunned. Nothing major, my lord.
Just a few slaves died inside. I cleaned up their bodies, so no problem. Michael frowned but didn't stop walking deeper into the mine. What's the cause of death? He asked the Spartan. For a few seconds, Hostess remained silent. You didn't bother to check, did you? He sighed as the Spartan scratched the back of his helmet. Eventually, after walking for almost half an hour, they started to see a few glimmers of bluish light deeper into the mine. Soon the narrow path opened up into a large spacious area where they saw crystals in the walls, ground, and above them. Hundreds of people could occupy the area. It was enormous. He could see the crystal in various sizes. On the other side of the area, he noticed a narrow opening as well as tools such as hammers, shovels, crowbars, and large picks. Where does that lead to? Michael pointed at the narrow opening and asked Hostess. Deeper into the mountain, my lord. Those slaves died caving the pathway. Why did they die? What's on the other side? Michael had a bad feeling in his gut. With utmost caution, he made his way to the narrow path through the rocky ground. New chapter of Roll? 2 is up. Link is in the comments section. Hi, my wonderful readers. I take this moment to thank my dear friend and fan God of Cat for reforming my server and being a huge help in the making of Roll 2. Thank you, buddy, for helping me these last couple of weeks. You've been a wonderful friend. Chapter 402. Michael was squeezing through the narrow crack to get to the other side. Hostess followed him behind while Maxine entered through the crack last. As he squeezed through the crack, the torch he had in his hand got put out. The sudden darkness worked in his favor though. Without Hostess noticing, Michael cast the death range spell. His strength exploded thanks to the darkness. He pushed the rock in front of him while pushing back the rock behind him using his back. The narrow crack creaked as it got wider. Maxine could breathe a little considering the narrow crack became wider. Although Hostess felt the crack widening, he didn't think the youngster before him had the strength to move the mountain literally.
My lord, can you see the other side?
Maxine breathed heavily. Even after the crack widened, she had a hard time squeezing through the crack due to her body shape. I can feel the air. Just a bit more, he answered. He sensed tiredness in Maxine's voice. It was weird of her to get exhausted. I don't feel very good. Just after Maxine talked, Hostess also opened his mouth. Surprisingly, the Spartan also sounded exhausted. More exhausted than Maxine. Quit whining, just a bit more. He focused on squeezing through the crack. When he was a little child, he had an extreme claustrophobic condition. He had that condition until he trained with Spectre. One day when Spectre knew about Michael's fear of closed spaces, Spectre put him in a casket and buried him for an entire day. Spectre made him face his own fears rather than running away from them. In the end, he was able to let go of the fear of closed spaces. Until Spectre went crazy and ordered assassins to kill the orphanage Michael cared about. He was not only a mentor to him but also a father figure. Everything Michael knew, he learned from Spectre. Deep down in his heart, he still missed the old guy. Warning! Warning! Suddenly his entire 8 sight was filled with warning messages from the system. His train of thoughts immediately stopped by the screaming noises inside his head. Extreme amount of radiation. The host has been exposed to an extreme amount of radiation. Immediate action required. The system recommends the host to purchase and use 100% healing potion. The healing potion would prevent the radiation from permanently causing damage to the host for 30 minutes. Shit! Maxine, go back! He was startled. Immediately turning his head towards Maxine, he shouted, "One potion would cost the host 5,000 Baddest points. Does the host wish to buy the healing potion?" Yes. Fuck. Do it. By 2-inch, Michael shouted in his mind at the system. Arg. Several seconds after the warning, he started to feel a vomiting sensation as well as muscle pain because of the radiation. Using his remaining strength in his body, Michael began to push the mountain wall forward with his legs. He let out a loud cry, pushing the mountain back and forth. He was not strong enough to move the mountain but strong enough to widen the crack several inches more, which would make escaping the narrow crack easier for Maxine. As he made the crack open wide, the system gave him the healing potion. He wasted no time as he immediately chugged the entire potion in one gulp. Maxine, drink this. He completely ignored Hostess, who was between Michael and Maxine. The The Spartan leaned back on the wall to stand straight. He was breathing heavily. Completely ignoring Hostis, Michael conjured a ball of flame which lightened up the dark mine. He then tossed the sparkling blue healing potion towards Maxine. The potion was sparkling as though it was liquid gold. Maxine was having trouble standing straight. She felt her muscles become weak and had a killing headache. In addition to muscle pain and headache, she felt like she was going to faint any second.
Still, mustering all the strength in her body, she raised her hand catching the potion in the mid-air.
Wind blast. Just like him, Maxine too chugged the healing potion in one go. The moment she finished the healing potion, Michael sent a powerful blast of wind towards her. The powerful gust of wind pushed both Hostis and Maxine out of the narrow crack. Unlike Maxine and Hostis, he didn't run out of the narrow crack but pushed himself deeper into the crack. Lightning dash, he cast the spell and willed the system to equip his Lucifer armor. In a split second, he transformed into his complete Lucifer form. The metal plates attached to the armor scratched with the rough walls on either side, creating sparks of fire. If it wasn't for the armor, the skin on his arms would have been scrapped off like a carrot by the rough walls. With the help of Lightning Dash, he pushed himself out of the crack.
Whoa! Michael's reflexes saved him yet again as he was just an inch away from falling down into a pit below him.
The ground ended after several meters from the narrow path opening.
What in front of him was nothing but an endless dark pit. Wow! He looked down into the dark pit.
The hole was as large as the meteor crater of Arizona or wider. He could not see the end of the dark pit. It was pitch black. What is this place? He looked around in shock. Above the crater, he was able to see countless crystals brighter than the one he got from Vibius on the roof. These crystals were blood red and bigger in size. However, Michael was afraid to fly to the crystals and mine them without knowing what was lying inside the hole. System, if something went wrong, buy a teleportation scroll and teleport me and Maxine to a safe distance. Is the host planning to jump into the endless pit? Of course not. He took out a drone from his space ring.
Standing on the edge of the crater, he looked down once again before sending the drone flying down into the deep dark pit.
His heart was pounding against his chest. The mere sight of the gigantic pitch-black pit freaked him out. Azazel, are you seeing the footage of the drone I just deployed?
Yes, my lord. Azazel's grim voice sounded in his head.
System, record everything. He could see the footage being captured by the drone in his mind. The drone disappeared from his eyesight, yet he noticed nothing but darkness.
Jim!
Suddenly a ground-shaking groan emerged deep from the pit. The very next moment, the drone footage disappeared before glitching. The drone crumbled into bits and pieces. Shit. Michael's legs took steps backward in fear. Lightning dash, he immediately cast the spell, wasting no time. Under his skull mask, his face was pale as he was drenched in sweat. He never felt overwhelmingly terrified before in his life.
He ran away from the pit without even turning back.
Screech. The armor collided with the walls, producing sparks as he dashed away from the pit. The armor was completely disfigured and lost its shiny metallic black color. Boom. As he exited the narrow crack, he stumbled down and went sliding for a couple of meters before stopping.
My lord!
Maxine shouted, seeing him coming out crashing down. However, before she could run towards him, Michael kicked up. He didn't stand still but yet again activated a lightning dash towards the narrow crack opening. This time when he reached the opening, he didn't squeeze through. He grabbed the two sides of the mountain and pulled them closer using all of his strength.
ARJH!
His shout echoed through the mine. Every single muscle in his body popped up as the armor began to crack. There were also cracks formed up in the walls of the mountain on either side of the narrow opening. Maxine was completely stunned by his show of raw strength. She saw the narrow opening closing up inch by inch. It seemed like he was moving the mountain itself. Closing the opening was not easy at all. He could feel his consciousness drifting away. Yet, he pushed himself to the absolute limit because what he saw was nothing but death. He stared death in its eyes and came back. Boom. Eventually, after several seconds, the crack finally shut, producing a booming sound. Maxine came running to him when he collapsed down to the ground. She didn't worry about Hostis because the Spartan bled to death. It was a horrible death. He bled through all the pores and holes in his body. He kept twitching like a fish out of the water before losing his life forever.
My lord, what happened?
Maxine knelt on his side before taking his head in her hand.
She placed his head on her lap. System? Michael mumbled under his breath using the last bit of his strength. Teleport? Dark. Forest. Maxine felt the air around her become chilly.
She had experienced this before. Hence, she held Michael closer and closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she was in a dark, cozy room. What happened? Fuck! Maxine shouted. She was startled by Azazel's sudden appearance. What the fuck are you? It's not important.
Put my lord on the bed. Azazel pointed at the bed. His ethereal face had a worried look.
Maxine growled, lifting Michael. With his armor, he was a little too heavy. Careful, Azazel exclaimed. She almost collapsed onto the bed with him because of his weight.
The moment you go back to the mountain, close the area you were in. Maxine didn't know what the hell is the figure floating before her, but she could sense the fear in his voice.
Do you know what happened and why Lord Lucifer closed the opening? Dormant Hydra. Both of them heard Michael's voice. They turned their heads to the bed to see Lucifer standing up. The Hydra is in Stormvale Mountain. Hi my wonderful readers, this day completes my 2 years journey as an author. I want to thank all my wonderful readers for supporting me until now. Your comments, reviews, and criticisms not only boosted my happiness but also made me a better writer. I am extremely happy and honored to announce that my third book, Rise of the Legendary Emperor, will be released 23rd of this month. And I'm happier to announce that my next adventure, Dictator with a Badass System, will be released this month. I hope every one of you would continue to lend me your support. The schedule of HBS will not be affected in any way by the new novel. Please show me your support by leaving your comment under this chapter. This is my life now, so I hope everyone will stick with me and support me. Always your goofy author. Done an awful new chapter of Roll? 2 is up. Link is in the comments section. Chapter 403 Hydra? My lord, I thought Vidora is the only Hydra in this world, Maxine muttered. Michael removed his mask as well as his chest armor to breathe a little. I have to see something. Michael walked out of the room as Maxine and Azazel followed him behind. As usual, the Netherals were cleaning the corridors as though they were professional maids. Azazel attached blue orbs on the ceiling to lighten up the place. They didn't provide light like eclectic bulbs, but they provided enough to make navigating through the corridors easier. After a while of walking, they reached a grayish door that stood 7 foot tall. The door had intricate carvings which seemed like Lucifer battling several soldiers on a battlefield filled with skulls. Michael pushed the door open to see a spacious room. All 4 walls had mirrors the size of a 24-inch monitor glued to them. Each monitor showed a view. Previously, this room was used as the armory by the Order of Death. The weapons they stored in the room were corroded and rusted with time. They became unusable. Except for the mirrors, there was a glistening white orb that remained in the center of the room on a 4-foot pillar. Welcome to the place of power, Maxine. Michael greeted Maxine with a smile. He then walked towards the center of the room. He took a minute to comprehend the potential of the surveillance room. Currently from this room, he could watch over Breedia, some places in Kethan and Royal Land. If he could deploy thousands of spiders all over the world, he would have a bigger surveillance system than anyone in the world. The white orb worked as a hard disk. It stored every single footage. If required, Michael could access the footage through the system. Other than him, only Azazel had access to the footage. My lord, is that? Maxine pointed at one of the mirrors. Her voice trailed away. Michael looked at the mirror pointed by Maxine to see Pirate Lord Corey sleeping on a comfy bed with a naked man. Then Maxine turned her head to the mirror next to see Shorty picking his nose. She even saw her old crew having a party on her ship anchored at the Pirate Cove. In her shock, she failed to notice the black mirror that had no footage on the corner of the wall. She couldn't help feeling her privacy being invaded. Are you feeling like your privacy is being invaded, Maxine? As though he was a mind reader, Michael asked what she was feeling. Maxine was stunned by his question. She wanted to shake her head but she hesitated. Can you see the footage of your room in those mirrors? Maxine looked around the room, staring at every single mirror including the black mirror. Eventually, after several moments later, she found no mirror that showed the footage of her room in Bertha or her old ship. I don't spy on people I trust. And if I did, it's for your own safety. The Guardians and my enemies will use the people closest to me to get to me. If I don't watch over them, best case they will die. Worst case, they will be tortured until they are broken.
His words were somehow soothed her down. It also made sense to her. If she was captured by guardians, she would want Lucifer to locate her and come to her rescue. Take this. Maxine saw the pendant they previously gave to the senators appear in his hand. When you don't want to be watched, remove it and place it somewhere safe. He handed over the spycam pendant to Maxine. Yes, my lord. She could feel that Lucifer really trusts her. That warmed her heart deeply. Just as he explained, he wasn't spying on his loyal subordinates because he could see their loyalty in the system window. Yet he was watching over them in case they got into trouble. After she wore the pendant around her neck, Michael waved his hand as every single mirror in front of them went black. System, play the footage captured by the drone, he willed the system. Azazel and Maxine stared at the flickering screens in front of them. Play it in slow motion, he ordered the system. Without uttering a word, they all stared at the screens. At the moment, all the mirrors worked as a single gigantic screen. For several moments, the screens showed nothing but pitch-black darkness. Then, for a split second, Maxine noticed 3 pairs of crimson-red glow deep within the dark pit. The very next moment, the screens glitched and stopped moving. Play it again slower. The footage started again. This time, Maxine didn't even blink. She looked closer at the red glows that appeared for a brief second. Michael let out a deep breath. It was dark and the red glow appeared only for a split second, but he knew what he saw. They were not just red glows or glitches in the footage. They were pairs of eyes. 3 pairs of eyes. The 3 pairs of eyes, the high radiation, the size of the eyes, and his gut feeling told him that it was the Hydra resting at the end of the dark pit. If his guess was correct, the Hydra would be 3 times the size of King Ghidorah. Just imagining it terrified him to the core. The Hydra might be the most powerful existence in this world. Fighting a monster such as this Hydra was nothing but asking for death. He realized why the system told him not to search for the Hydra until he could reach the immortal stage. Are those eyes, my lord? After seeing the footage in extreme slow motion, Maxine kinda guessed it. Yes. That Hydra is the reason no one in southern continent can become cultivators. Maxine's jaw slightly dropped. It's sucking all the arch energy in the atmosphere, as he said. He flicked his wrist, taking the crystal out from his space ring. These crystals must be the byproduct of arch energy gathering into the mountain. Azazel was hovering behind him. When he saw the crystal, he floated towards him in curiosity. He stared at the crystal for a moment. My lord, this is pure arch energy, the demon butler exclaimed. There must be pure arch energy crystals within the pit. He stood there looking at the screens with hands behind his back. Yet again, he played the footage to see the crimson eyes of the Hydra. Not worth the risk of waking that monster up. Azazel, my lord. Tell Dalar to summon as many as netherals he could. We are going to mine the shit out of that mountain. He then turned his gaze towards Maxine. Maxine, make sure no one opens that pathway to the pit. If that Hydra wakes up, it will be game over for us, Maxine nodded, hearing his serious voice. She had never seen him serious such as this before. I will teleport the netherals into the mountain. Maxine will store all the crystals for me. How, my lord? Go look how our Arius brothers doing? Instead of answering how she would be able to store the crystals, Michael asked her to check on Arius brothers. After she left the room, he waved his hand as the dark footage changed into lively scenery. A woman standing on the top of a boulder could be seen. Her eyes were closed. Behind her was a majestic waterfall. The water sprayed by the waterfall coupled with the sunlight produced a beautiful miniature rainbow behind the woman. Layla Alden. Azazel could recognize her with a single look despite her pregnant belly. The pendant Michael gave Layla was a special one. It had the spider he built as well as a tiny fly that could detach from itself from the pendant and fly around, taking footage of Layla from all angles. He bought it from the system as he lacked the materials and tools to build such a tiny camera. If one knew what happened between Layla and him, they would definitely mark him as a hypocrite. He was infuriated at his parents for abandoning him, but he did the same to the spirit child. Except, he didn't abandon the child or Layla. He was watching over them. Only Michael was able to access the footage of Layla. Hence one mirror remained dark showing no footage. He just remained there watching Layla in silence. Take care of yourself and the kid Layla. Taking a last look at Layla, he waved his hand again as the mirrors went back to their normal state. He then left the surveillance room to resume his work of shadow ruling the world. When he reached his room, he sat on the table and placed the crystal in front of him. Bracelet or pendant? He asked himself before starting to build the device that would make his subordinates overpowered in the southern continent. Right at the moment, Maxine was standing before the tubular contaminants in Arius' room. She was staring at the two muscular men submerged in the sparkling blue liquid. Their limbs seemed to be growing, which was surprising for her. She knew this was another miracle the Dark Lord could perform. As she was staring at them, she heard the door behind her creak open. She turned back to see Lucifer entering the room. She quickly bowed. "Give me your hand." She reached out her right hand without asking a question. He took out a dark metal bracelet before putting it on her hand. Ouch! She let out a burst of cry when she suddenly felt a sharp pain around her wrist. It felt as though the bracelet pierced her wrist with hundreds of tiny needles. The pain quickly disappeared as he took out a red vial. Drink. The red portion was not as watery as the potions she had drank before. It was thick, almost like jelly. It took her a second to swallow the tasteless, odorless jelly. Several seconds later, she felt an electric bolt running through her veins. She jolted as her entire body shivered. In addition, she was sweating. "Put this ring and concentrate on it." Taking a few deep breaths, she steadied herself. As he said, after she put the ring on, she began to concentrate on the ring. "Are you feeling a connection with the space ring?" Maxine nodded. She was still getting used to the new experience. "Put this inside." He then threw a healing potion towards her and waited for Maxine to put the healing potion into her space ring. Dark lines formed on her forehead due to her concentration, but after several seconds, the healing potion in her hand finally disappeared. And that's how you're gonna store the crystals. If everything went to plan, you will see Gaia in the next 2 chapters. Chapter 404. As Michael was building bracelets that allow his subordinates to use arch energy, 4 horses were pulling a fancy carriage through a thick forest. The forest was far-reaching, compact, and budding. Its canopy was eclipsed by a magnolia, asp, and dogwood. Still, plenty of light passed through their crowns for a plethora of sprouts to make use of the insect-riddled soils below. Curving branches waved from every tree, and a potpourri of flowers, which grew in abundance, clashed with the otherwise amber terrain. In addition to the horses galloping, a variety of animal sounds, most belonging to rummaging critters, reverberated through the air, and almost completely muffled the occasional roar of a large animal trying to scare away predators. From the outside, the carriage seemed rather generic, nothing special about it at all. However, the inside was exactly the opposite. It was fancier than the interior of Kaya's private airship. 2 gorgeous young girls were sitting gracefully in the carriage. One of them wore a white, jade-embroidered robe and had her silky hair draping down all the way to her shoulders. A jade hairpin was stuck within her bun of hair. Her face was alluring and friendly because of the warmth smile on her face. Those hazel eyes of her exuded an elegant and intelligent demeanor which caused everyone around her to like her instantly. The young girl in front of her was prettier and had sharper features than her. Her red hair was tied up in a high bun and her skin was smooth and flawless. However, she had a certain cold and icy look in her eyes which almost seemed like she could see through anyone and anything. Her posture and aura indicated an arrogant elite demeanor. The girl in white robes whose face was full of smiles asked softly, "Victoria, you seem to be bothered by something. From the moment our journey back to Thusia began, your expression was so sullen. Be careful that wrinkles don't sprout out since you've been frowning." If Michael was to see the girl, a bloodbath would have happened inside the carriage. This Victoria wasn't the Victoria of Golden Valley sect. This Victoria was the one who pretended to be a farm girl, made Abras fall in love and betrayed him by sending a dagger through his heart. Abras knew her as Emily until General Booth revealed her identity as the Princess of Kingdom Thusia, Victoria Barnes. Of course, her hairstyle, hair color as well as her dress was way different than the girl Abras used to know. Still, he would recognize the face anywhere anytime. Her face was etched into his very soul, the soul that now merged with Michael and becoming whole. In his memories, the princess wasn't so cold and arrogant back then. In fact, she was a warm and adorable girl in the past. Unlike Michael, Abras had no connection with the outside world. Therefore, she was able to fool him easily with her phony love and sweet talks. "Do you believe in this Lucifer figure?" Victoria asked the girl in white robes softly. The warm smile on Edith's face faded away after her question. A solemn expression replaced her warm smile. "I don't know, Vicky. It seemed he appeared when we were in Arar. I think people are exaggerating things. I don't know if Lucifer is real or not, but I certainly know he's neither the devil nor a god as some claim him to be." "Why do you ask?" "I have this weird feeling in my gut, Edith. Like something dark follows me." "Huh?
What are you talking about? Lucifer might be just some punk running around killing people, Vicky.
If you ask me, he's either not real or he's a murderous psychopath that Guardians needs to apprehend as soon as possible. Is it a coincidence? Lucifer appears claiming he's the devil after we took over the cosmic stream. What if his sudden appearance and cosmic stream are connected? Her one eyebrow raised like a sharp sword as she talked. You are overthinking, Vicky.
I heard how you guys took the cosmic stream.
If you want to blame something, blame the flu that wiped out the people who protected the stream. No. The flu wasn't natural, Edith. It was made by our alchemists and healers. To subdue the elders protected the cosmic stream. Victoria shook her head gently. Her expression was blank. Since we are going to be family and form an alliance, you deserve to know the truth. Victoria began to narrate the events that led to the capture of Cosmic Stream.
She did not hide anything from her best friend?
Because Victoria trusted her friend more than anyone. What? Edith widened her eyes and spoke in shock. Why?
Why did you do that?
Her hazel eyes contained a tinge of fury. Victoria sighed. It was not by choice, Edith.
I can't tell you everything, but trust me, we were forced.
It was either taking over the cosmic stream or cleaning up thousands of corpses. Corpses of my people. Edith remained silent for a couple of minutes. She took several deep breaths, looking at her best friend's eyes. Do you regret it, Vicky? Victoria shook her head. I feel bad for everyone who lost their lives, but I don't regret it. They could have helped millions of people with the stream, yet they chose not to share with the world, kept it as a secret. Because of what we did, thousands of people are alive now, Victoria replied nonchalantly.
What would you have done in my situation, Edith?
Would you have chosen to save them and let thousands of innocents die? Being rulers is not always fancy, Edith. We need to make tough choices such as this, Victoria calmly spoke. Your sister wiped out an entire army of the orcs to save a kingdom. The orcs were just following orders, but if your sister didn't do anything because they were just following orders, thousands of humans would have lost their lives that day. Edith's pupils constricted as she became silent for a little while before letting out a sigh.
I guess you and my sister are a lot stronger than me. I couldn't have made the choices you two made. But what about him, Vicky? The guy you pretended to love?
What about him? If it wasn't him, I would have done the same to someone else. He was an orphan who was thrown away by his parents. The elders raised him, but a couple of days of a woman's warmth was enough for him to betray them and run away. As far as I was concerned, I gave him a quick death.
They all died quickly and painlessly, Victoria said dully.
She showed no regret or emotions at all. Her face and voice sounded cold. Victoria remained unmoved and without any sign of emotions, saying apathetically, Everybody has their own fate. There are way too many pitiful people in this world besides him. Moreover, his death wasn't anything important. After absorbing the energy from the cosmic stream, my father quickly reached fusion stage. If he continues his cultivation, he would enter the immortal stage, which would bring peace and prosperity to not only Wuxia but also to the entire world. Sigh. Edith closed her eyes, sighing briefly. She did not speak for a couple of moments. Enough of talking about my feelings.
How do you feel, Edith?
I heard you may have met your soulmate. Instantly Edith's face became redder than a ripe tomato. Even the cold beauty such as Victoria gently smiled, looking at her best friend blush.
Shut up, Vicky. It's not anything like that.
Noah is just a friend. Is that his name? Noah. Nice, Victoria said as though she was hearing his name for the first time. Does he know who you are really? Victoria asked as Edith let out a deep breath. If he's just a friend, you don't have to tell him anything. Otherwise, it's better you tell him you are an Alden, better yet, little sister of Layla Alden, the wielder of angels Vina. 2 hours later, Russell. 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 Among the trees in the forest, a girl was laying on a thick branch up high from the ground. She used one hand as her pillow and the other to cover her face. Her snoring sound was interrupted by a childish voice. Hey, wake up. Fuck. Let's just bite her face. Another childish voice of a girl sounded. Snake, wake up this time. The voice belonged to a boy, but the voice sounded calmer and more mature than the two previous voices. Ayo, the girl yawned as she moved her hand away. Her eyes slowly opened. Didn't I tell you 3 shitheads I need rest? This girl was none other than Gaia herself. She was taking a long nap after continuously flying for 3 days. She was craving for snacks and exhausted. Despite her deep thinking about her mother, she was able to sleep due to her exhaustion. As Ghost always used to say, sleep is not only for the body but also for the brain. She decided to sleep before continuing her journey. She wanted to look at her mother's disappearance with a fresh mind, yet for some reason, the Hydra woke her up in the middle of her sleep. Just as she was about to slap each of the heads for waking her up, her ear twitched a little. Not too far off, there was a faint noise. She turned her head in the direction of the noise to see 6 silhouettes running through the forest. They were wearing complete all-black clothes along with a wolf mask, only exposing a pair of eyes filled with murderous intent. Not here. Continue to search. That princess bitch dies today. The 6 people didn't notice Gaia on top of them. They just continued to search the forest. What the fuck? Gaia was stunned. Are they searching for you? She frowned after hearing Sarba question. She had the same doubt, but she had no idea who they are except they belong to the Grim Reaper Guild. We better follow them silently. I have some weird feeling about this. She stood up to follow them behind. I can sense the energy fluctuations around them. They are definitely weaker than you, Sarba exclaimed. Since recently, Gaia learned that each of the heads is developing new powers. Iag was able to create a powerful sonic blast that distorts people, while Sarba developed some kind of sense that let him see the energy radiations. With this skill, Sarba could compare cultivators in terms of power and determine their cultivation stage. Only Cain was yet to show his powers, but Gaia was sure his powers would soon come to light. Let's see what these idiots up to, Gaia rolled her eyes. Yeah, and I want to see who that bitch princess they were talking about? Iag chuckled. Gaia took off from the branch into the sky. When she was high in the sky, she was able to see some smoke coming from not too far from her location. It took her a few minutes to reach the place. When she descended onto the path through the canopy, she saw a horse carriage. Surrounding the carriage were many corpses with fresh blood flowing all over the ground. She walked to the carriages and squatted down to look for some footprints if there were any. I hear heartbeats. Suddenly Cain opened his mouth. Hydra's senses were extremely sharper than anyone in this world. How many? 2, Cain said, looking in the direction of the heartbeats. Killing Grim Reapers is always a great exercise to mind and body. It will calm you down. Gaia devilishly chuckled before dashing into the forest. Chapter 405. At the same time, not too far from the stream, under the shade of some tall and old trees, 2 figures were hiding behind a thick bush. It was Edith and Victoria who barely escaped the Grim Reapers after their initial ambush. However, the 2 of them looked way different than before because of their disguise. They used the commoners' robes from their space ring and wore them to look like they were from a village. In addition to their raggedy clothes, they also smudged some mud over their fair skin to hide the glow. In their disguise, it would be extremely difficult for someone to recognize them as royalty and noble. The 2 of them kept looking around with frowns on their faces. They didn't dare to make a single sound. If I only had my cultivation, Victoria gritted her teeth. Whoever put the contract on our head would have sent more powerful reapers, or they wouldn't have put the contract at all, Edith whispered. Both of their cultivation was reset by a powerful spell. Absorbing the energy from the cosmic stream required the individual to start cultivating from the beginning. That was one of the reasons that either of them had no cultivation power. They were just at the arch-sensing stage. Who else knew about our trip? This is definitely an inside job. Edith tightly gripped her tiny hands and exclaimed while gritting her teeth. When I find out who, I'm gonna show how Thujans deal with traitors. An intent to kill flashed past Victoria's eyes. She coldly replied, they are definitely at the core formation stage. I can feel it. She then clutched the dragon pendant hanging around her neck. A dim glow could be seen within the dragon pendant. That doesn't change anything. If they manage to find us. Edith's voice trailed away as her expression became gloomy. Hideo sent a distress signal before they killed him. We just need to hide from them until General Booth comes with the men and slaughters them, Victoria said with a cold tone. Edith's tiny face turned pale in fear of losing some color. What if they didn't get the signal? Vicky, we can't hide here forever. We should make a run for it and look for a village of something. Victoria went quiet for a while and sighed. Edith, their target is only me. There is a village nearby in the north. I will run in the opposite, distracting them. You make a run for the village. Victoria Barnes, Edith frowned. Instead of calling her Vicky as she used her full name with a stern look on her face. Victoria tried to open her mouth but turned into a bitter laugh. She nodded. You've always said that with my personality, you'll never find my guy who would want me. But with your temperament, you are not too far off from me, Edith giggled. No. I was just kidding with you in the past. In reality, many guys wish to court you. If all of them were to line up, they would definitely make a circle around the capital.
It's just that you are interested in none of them. They might be the same age as me, but the guys who tried to court me are either spoiled brats or weaklings. The highest cultivation among them was only core formation stage level 4. None of them were qualified to be my prince, Victoria replied unenthusiastically. Edith lightly sighed. Why do you always judge people with their strengths? After you rebuild your cultivation with cosmic energy, no one in the world would be on the same level as you. Alignment of hearts is more important in marriage life than the cultivation stage. Love Vicky. If he loves you and you loves him, it's enough. The two girls forgot about the danger for a moment and started to discuss life. You know, I heard about someone who might interest you. Who? He goes by the name Ghost. Apparently he's a 5-star alchemist in the age of 21 and he's at core formation stage level 10. For a moment, Edith saw a glint of surprise emerge in her eyes. That is somewhat impressive, but I've seen more talented people in R and am sure we will meet monstrous talents where we are going. So if you find someone with the qualities you look for there, you will take him as your husband? Victoria snickered. I will still look for some qualities such as when I need him. He must always appear on time. It's not that I need his help, but he should be at my side when I need him. Edith couldn't help rolling her eyes. For God's sake, Vicky. You are so complicated and stubborn. I doubt I would be still alive to see you get your ideal bodyguard. It's not like I have to get married. Me and my father will reach immortality and rule over Thuxia forever. I don't need to provide an heir for the throne after me, Victoria nonchalantly said. Look at your sister. Did she marry anyone? A woman can get married, but it's not a must. Women should learn to live independently without needing a man. We don't need to be married or mothers to be complete. I don't overthink marriage like you, Vicky. If I love someone and he loves me as much as I love him, I'll marry him and be happy. Victoria, with creased brows, said, I'm not against marriage, Edith. I'm just saying it's better to marry the right person later than the wrong one earlier because our families force us to. Whoosh. At this time, amidst their conversation, an abrupt movement could be heard from the woods ahead. What the fuck are you two doing here? Edith felt a chill running through her spine when she heard the sudden voice coming from behind. They immediately turned around to see a golden-haired girl wearing a gray long coat and black turtleneck and black leather pants walking towards them. On her back, they saw a longbow and quiver filled with arrows. She wasn't as beautiful as either of them, but Edith noticed a grace in her movements. Her golden hair danced around her shoulder as she walked towards them. Whoosh! As they were staring at the girl, a man wearing a creepy wolf mask jumped out of the trees. The man looked at Victoria and Edith for a few moments. He looked as though he was scanning them. Thanks to their disguise, the Reaper failed to recognize them. However, the Reaper thought Gaia was the princess they were searching for as she looked clean and nobler than the other two girls. You! The masked Reaper raised his hand at Gaia. You, what you? Gaia mimicked the Reaper's voice to make fun of him. Meanwhile, Edith was standing by the side with face still in astonishment. Victoria was also surprised at the girl's courage to make fun of the Reaper. The Reaper was furious as he leaped at Gaia with the dagger in his hand. In the mid-air, he cast a spell that enabled his dagger to be enveloped in bluish fire. Bang! The very next moment, Edith and Victoria saw the Reaper's head explode into red mist in the mid-air. They were unsure of what just happened. When they looked at the girl, she had the long bow in her hand instead of on her back. They were stunned by her lightning-quick speed. They did not even see her taking out her bow, knocking an arrow and fire at the Reaper. Space ring. Gaia noticed the space ring in the Reaper's hand. She ignored the two girls to go loot the body. After Gaia walked some distance away, Edith suddenly snapped out of her astonishment. She looked at Victoria and said, Vicky, did you see that? She killed the Reaper just like that. If we could ask for her protection, we might be able to escape from here, Victoria frowned, creasing her brows. If I, the dignified princess, were to put down my pride and seek protection from a stranger, it would taint my name. Also, this Reaper might be a scout with weak cultivation levels. Edith, General Booth would have already received my distress signal and is coming here to over. We should hide for a little while more. This forest is so far from the outpost, Vicky. Even if General Booth has sent help, it would take a very long time for them to reach here and locate us amidst the forest. Edith thought for a while and suddenly laughed. Vicky, I have an idea. What if we tell her the truth and tell her we would pay her handsomely if she escorts us to the outpost? After Victoria listened, as if a little swayed, she knitted her brows and contemplated. No, Edith, she shook her head. No time for arguing, Vicky. Follow me while talking. Edith pulled along her hand and walked towards Gaia, who was busy looting the Reaper. Sister,
Could you please do us a favor? Edith asked with a pleading tone. Just get out of here before more of these assholes come here?
Gaia didn't even turn back to look at them, which made Victoria clench her fist in anger. Gaia would have recognized them as nobles if they hadn't resetted their cultivation level. According to Saga, they were at the arch-sensing stage. Therefore, coupled with their disguise, Gaia really thought the two girls were commoners. However, very quickly, she hid the bitterness. Her eyes regained their apathetic look and her expression became icy cold once again. Regardless of Gaia's behavior, Edith continued to plead. To be honest, my sister and I are working for a young noble in the city of Cadena. A few days ago, we came out to collect herbs for our young master but were attacked by these guys on the way. They seemed like they were searching for someone. They killed the servants and guards but? We managed to escape up till this point. The young master has an outpost nearby. Could you please protect and escort us back to the outpost? If we manage to return, the young master will definitely give you a satisfying reward. Whoosh! 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 Just as Gaia was about to answer, she saw 4 reapers leaping out of the darkness and surrounding them. Chapter 406. The 4 reapers who surrounded Gaia had their gazes locked on Gaia. They were all wearing wolf masks, hence Victoria and Edith couldn't see how they looked behind the mask. The reapers weren't sure whether the girl in front of them or the 2 near the bushes were their targets. However, just to be sure, they decided to kill all of them. Energy Whip. One of the reapers quickly cast a spell as sparkling blue energy whip materialized in his hands. The whip produced a crackling sound of electricity. Shield of Shadows. Another reaper cast a spell that formed a thin layer of dark smoke around all of the 4 reapers. It was obvious this was a defense spell but Gaia couldn't care less. She was at the core strengthening stage and these reapers were just at core formation level 4 or 5 according to Sarba. Lightning Arms. The third one cast a spell as the reaper's hands illuminated blue because of the lightning bolts coiling his arms. Gaia patiently waited for them to finish casting spells. She wanted to evaluate how powerful she has become after breaking through to the core strengthening stage. The best way to find out was to battle and push herself to the limits. She wasn't worried about getting herself killed though. If she couldn't defeat 4 core formation stage reapers with her core strengthening stage cultivation, she wasn't worthy of being her mother's daughter, and certainly wasn't worthy of being with Ghost. What about you? Aren't you gonna cast any spells? Gaia asked the reaper who hadn't cast any spells yet. The reaper remained silent as Gaia cracked her neck. Victoria and Edith were stunned. If Victoria was in the girls' shoes, she would have attacked them before they could finish casting spells. It was the most sensible strategy. Gaia would have also done that if she didn't want to assess herself. Suit yourself, said Gaia. Shall we start? The moment these words escaped Gaia's mouth, the reaper with the energy whip in his hand leaped at her. He swung the whip violently as she immediately leaped into the air, evading the whip. Boom! Say! In the mid-air, she shot an arrow into the ground beside the reaper. They reached her target within a second. It exploded, creating a muffled booming sound. Soon thick white smoke began to emerge from the place where the arrow hit. Fuck, she cursed at herself. Instead of firing an explosive arrow, she mistakenly took the smoke arrow from her quiver. The thick smoke enveloped the area a few seconds after. Edith, this is our chance. Victoria immediately grabbed Edith's hands before running in the opposite direction of the reapers. Because of the smoke, the reapers didn't notice the girls running. The smoke irritated their eyes and almost completely blocked their views. Surprising. Right at the moment, a figure was standing on a tree branch from quite a distance from the reapers and Gaia. The figure wore metal armor covering his chest and legs, but he exposed his beefy arms. If one was to see him at the moment, they would definitely think of him as a predator because he wasn't a human but a beast man. A rare breed of beast men, striped tiger. His orange shiny fur had black stripes which gave him the look of a Bengal tiger. This man was tasked to find Gaia by Zanali. He was one of the best trackers in the world. His services cost millions. For Zanali, 1 million gold wasn't a big chunk. With his tracking skills and superior senses, he was able to follow her scent to a broken portal in a ghost town. Then her scent disappeared as Jacoby could guess she had traveled to another realm. He was waiting for her to come back as his instincts told him she would. It seems like she's wearing a mask to disguise herself, a powerful magical artifact, he said, licking his claws. On the other side, Gaia had no idea she was being watched. After firing the smoke arrow,
She dashed away from the attacks of the Reapers. Currently, only 2 Reapers were attacking. The one with the whiplash and the other with the lightning bolts covered fists. The whiplash one swung his whip from a distance while the other one leaped into the sky to fight her in close combat. Thud, thud, thud. In the mid-air, she fought the Reaper. She used the bow to avoid his lightning bolts covered fist. The bolts of lightning reminded Gaia of Ghost. However, compared to Ghost's Ignitia spell, the lightning spell the Reaper cast was weak as hell. Both of them kept exchanging blows as Gaia managed to avoid the whip while fighting the Reaper. Pathetically weak, after a few minutes, Gaia memorized the Reaper's fighting style. Hence, she was able to form a deadly counterattack. While dashing left to avoid the whip, she saw the Reaper throwing an upper hook at her. She was expecting it as she simply bent back to avoid the punch. Then with a lightning-quick movement, she took out an arrow from her quiver and stabbed the Reaper in the neck. H! The Reaper let out a muffled cry. Although the Reaper had a dark shield to absorb attacks, it wasn't powerful enough to completely save him from her stab. The warrior trait enabled her to infuse her arch energy into any weapon she wielded. Only the warriors were able to infuse 100% of their arch energy power into their weapons. This special trait allowed a warrior to inflict maximum damage without casting a spell. Michael was able to infuse his arch energy power into his swords because of the dual-wielding skill he bought from the system. Even he wouldn't be able to infuse his arch energy power into every weapon like Gaia or any other warriors without the special trait. Her core-strengthening arch energy broke through the shield covering the Reaper. Blood sprayed out of the wound as Gaia twisted the arrow to end his life. The Reaper fell out of the sky dead. After killing the Reaper who fought her in close combat, the rest of the Reapers became an easy target for her. Of course, if she used her spells, the fight would have ended in a few seconds, but she always avoided using her spells as much as she could to avoid revealing her identity. Mateo Jianghu. The Reaper who cast the shields around them tried to cast another spell. But his spell casting was abruptly stopped by an arrow through his throat. Bang! Another arrow impaled his head before even he could grab the arrow sticking through his throat. The next second, the arrow exploded along with his head. The red mist above a headless body put a smile on Gaia's face. The remaining 2 Reapers stared at Gaia without moving a muscle. For a few moments, the area was filled with an awkward silence. Only the noises of crickets and the rustling sound of the dried leaves could be heard. Elemental bang. The one who remained without casting a spell finally opened his mouth to cast a spell only to get struck by Gaia's explosive arrow. The Reaper looked down at his chest and saw an arrow sticking through. He tried to remove the arrow but it exploded with a loud bang. You are a summoner. Nice killing ya? Gaia saluted him with 2 fingers, chuckling. The last remaining Reaper who had the whip shivered in fear. It was too late for the Reapers to realize her true strength. The whip in his hand dematerialized quickly. He tried to turn back and run. Leaving the party soon, aw. Too late, fucker. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As the Reaper was running for his life, Gaia rapidly fired arrows one after another. Each of the 4 arrows hit the running Reaper with deadly accuracy. Taking an arrow to each leg, one in the back and one through the head ended the Reaper's life in a matter of seconds. After killing all the Reapers, Gaia descended to the ground to loot their bodies. So those bitches made a run for it, huh? Damn it, what about my reward? She looked around, cursing the girls. She then made her way towards the last victim of hers to loot the body when her ears twitched. Boom! Just as she was about to turn her head in the direction of the rustling noise, she was hit by a powerful blast of energy. It was not lethal but it sent Gaia flying. She hit the tree before falling onto the ground. Her strong physical strength saved her organs but it couldn't prevent her from getting mad as hell. She immediately kicked herself up to see a 7-foot beast man standing near the dead Reaper with a chain in his hand. Whoa, you are one ugly cat. Gaia cracked her fist. Hey, you both seem to be on the same level, she heard Saga whisper. Surprisingly, it sounded like the voice was coming from her voice. Asked how Saga was talking to her through telepathically. Says the snake in human disguise? Jacoby said in a gruff voice. Gaia was stunned by his words. She was about to deny when Jacoby spoke again. Gaia Ashton, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Either way, you're coming with me to meet your stepsister? Jacoby swung the silver chain in his hand. Gaia noticed the glowing symbols on the chain. It seemed like the chain was strengthened by runes which would be problematic if she was tied by the chain. Is that so? She snickered. Tell my sister she can go fuck herself. Oh wait, you can't, because you're gonna die. As these words escaped her mouth, she removed the satchel with Fedora in it and put it on the ground. The very next second, an emerald-green smoke enveloped her body. When the smoke disappeared, a 7-foot purple cobra with a terrifying presence stood before Jacoby. Chapter 407. Gaia's instincts told her the beastman in front of her shouldn't be underestimated. Hence, she transformed into her true form, which enhances her power by multiple folds. Any weak-minded person would have been scared to death if they had seen Gaia's true form. She was terrifying with her shining dark purple scales, the 2 long fangs, the blood-red eyes with pitch-black vertical pupils. Except Jacoby wasn't a weak-minded person at all. In his life of hunting criminals and wrongdoers, he dealt with countless terrifying people who were more terrifying than her. Apprehending a criminal didn't completely depend on the cultivation stage. If it did, he wouldn't have been able to catch criminals more powerful than him. Hunting was an art and he loved to hunt the predators. Hunting a more powerful prey was always more stimulating. Every hunt required Jacoby to be prepared to the maximum. He was taught not to underestimate the prey because even the weakest prey would become powerful when it was pushed into a corner. He was provided with tools and accessories to hunt even the stronger prey. In addition to tools and accessories, Jacoby had the knowledge of every strength and weakness of all races including Nagas. For instance, Nagas were extremely dangerous in close combat. They would spray their poison to surround themselves. If the foe was trapped within the poisonous cloud, the foe would rapidly lose strength, which would lead to the ultimate death. Poison cloud. Gaia hissed as the thick jade-green poison gas shot out of her mouth. The poisonous cloud surrounded the area within a couple of seconds. However, Jacoby didn't even budge. Gaia noticed a translucent mask on his face which covered his nose and ears completely. Gaia hissed before slithering aside while carefully watching Jacoby. Her vertical pupils were locked on Jacoby. Whoosh! Jacoby suddenly swung the chain in his hand at her. The chain flew towards her, making a sharp ear-piercing sound. She quickly dodged the chain as the chain hit the tree behind her. The poor tree exploded into countless wooden splinters. Both of them were stunned. Gaia was surprised by the speed of the chain while Jacoby was surprised by the speed of her reflex. Poison flame. Gaia dashed at him, breathing dark green flame. The stream of green flame burnt everything it touched to ashes. Jacoby ran as fast as he could from the fire. He wasn't afraid of using the trees to climb and leaped to another tree like a monkey. Gaia's aim was perfect, yet Jacoby was able to avoid getting roasted by the flame because of his agility, extreme training, as well as the innate ability he had as a big cat. As a beastman who belonged to the tiger family, he inherited all the abilities of a cat. The green flame torched every single tree that it touched. Soon, a 5-meter radius forest was burned to ashes. Considering there was no canopy above them, the moonlight lightened up the place as though it was a giant chandelier in the sky. Cough, cough. Gaia's green flame finally stopped coming out of her mouth. The next moment, she coughed a couple of times. Whoosh! Jacoby immediately swung his chain at Gaia yet again. In a split second, she tilted her head sideways to evade the chain. She was quick enough to avoid the chain, but the chain managed to graze her neck. Her purple scales were scorched by the chain. The scorched scales became darkish black, losing their purple shine. Moreover, she felt excruciating pain. Bang! The chain grew longer in size in the mid-air and hit the tree behind her. Just like before, the tree exploded into countless pieces. As they were battling, Fedora peeked through the satchel to see what was happening outside. Look, a giant cat, Ayag whispered. Shoo. Kane shushed her immediately. Bang! 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 The two of them continued to battle as the sound of explosions reverberated the forest. Gaia spitballs of poison at Jacoby while he kept swinging his chain. Both of them were at a stalemate. Fuck, we have to help her. Ayag tried to move but only to be stopped by Kane. No, that beastman has no advantage over her yet. If we reveal ourselves, he would capture us and use us as hostages. Although Kane's words made sense, Ayag couldn't stay still and watch Gaia fight alone. She gritted her teeth, feeling a surge of power building within her. Don't do anything stupid, Ayag. Kane's voice became cold and serious. Ayag, he's right, he always is, Sarba said before quickly turning his gaze towards Kane. Do you have any idea to help her? Your poison reserves will soon be empty, Princess Jacoby exclaimed. He sounded like he was amused. The smugness on his face indicated that he enjoys the thrill of hunting.
Shit, Gaia cursed. Jacoby saw she finally stopped breathing flames. He jumped down from the tree with a smirk on his face.
He could see her breathing heavily as the shininess on her scales dimmed down, which meant she only had a little bit of arch energy left in her body.
As he was walking towards Gaia, she slithered backward. Her vertical pupils became round. Fuck this, I'm gonna help her, Ayag tried to jump out. But Kane and Saba stopped her from moving. She bit Saba on the neck in anger. Kane quickly head-butted Ayag with enough force to make her let go of Saba's neck. It's over, princess. You put up a good fight. Not impressive but meh, Jacoby grinned for the first time since he came. Gaia looked tired. She saw him coming towards her with his chain swinging in his hand. Rather than throwing the chain at Gaia, he kept walking towards her. Since she was weak and exhausted, he thought he could simply apprehend her without wasting the charge in the chain. After tying a person using the chain, it required 1 month of charging before it could be used again. Jacoby didn't think it was unnecessary to use the chain on Gaia and wait a month. He could use this month of time to hunt another one, the big one, Lucifer. As Ayag struggled to jump out of the satchel, Jacoby almost reached Gaia.
He stood a few meters away from her with a smirk on his face. Xianxia!
Suddenly Gaia shouted, firing an emerald green lightning bolt at Jacoby. Bang! The bolt of lightning was way faster than Jacobus' reflexes. The lightning bolt sent Jacoby flying for several meters before he hit the tree and fell down. His chest armor had a hole in it as he felt excruciating pain. He looked down to see the fur on the palace where the lightning bolt hit and got charcoaled.
The smell of burned hair slowly permeated the air.
Whoa! That's Ghost's spell. When did she learn that? Saba was surprised.
Xianxia! 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 Xianxia!
On the other side, Gaia kept firing bolts of lightning one after another at Jacoby. Several bolts hit him precisely. If it wasn't for his strong physics and the armor, he would have been dead by now. He kept running chaotically. The shininess on her scales came back. He couldn't help cursing at himself when he saw the shininess on her scales return. Obviously, she used some kind of technique to pretend she was exhausted and fooled him. I never wanted to do this. You pushed me. Jacoby growled while running. Shit shit shit, Kane suddenly began to curse. The other two heads were confused. They had no idea what made Kane upset. As far as they could tell, Gaia was kicking Jacobus' butt. However, soon they realized what made Kane upset when they saw Jacoby running towards them. They quickly put their heads back into the satchel. Fuck! Gaia realized what was his plan, but it was too late for her to stop him. With a final leap, Jacoby landed near the satchel. Just as she was about to dash towards him, he grabbed the satchel. Jacoby saw the look in her eyes. She was worried sick. His guess was right. When he was watching her fight the Reapers, she kept touching the satchel with one hand. Then they started the battle. She didn't throw away the satchel but gently placed it on the ground. He noticed how she cared for the satchel. Evidently, he came to the conclusion that she has something she cares about within the satchel. What do you have in here? In his hand, the satchel seemed so little. Gaia's heart was pounding against her chest as he grabbed the satchel. A pet it seems, Jacoby felt something inside squirm against his hold. He was curious to see what was inside, but first, he wanted to apprehend Gaia before opening the satchel. After all, he didn't want another surprise from her. Transform and kneel. Jacobus' thunderous roar echoed through the forest. She hesitated as he started to squeeze the satchel with his big hands. No! Gaia quickly transformed herself back to her human form. She was shivering in anger, yet compared to the life of Vidora, her anger seemed worthless. Tiger punch! He cast a spell that formed an ethereal fist of a striped tiger behind Gaia. The very next moment, the fist hit her in the back with enough force that stomped her to the ground.
Ah, she growled as blood started to drip down from her mouth.
He then flicked his wrist. The ethereal fist moved according to the flick of his wrist. It grabbed Gaia before picking her from the ground. Her eyes were blood-red in anger. Her entire body was shivering. But she controlled herself for the sake of Vidora. After making her kneel, Jacoby let out an arrogant grin. The chain once again materialized in his hand. Game over, snake? As he said, he swung the chain at her. She closed her eyes instinctively. She expected to feel something, but nothing happened. The chain never touched her.
She opened her eyes to see the chain remain still, as though it was stopped by something in the mid-air. She looked up to see a hand holding the chain. The anger in her eyes immediately disappeared as her eyes began to water up. Her lips curved upwards. Finally, she heaved a sigh of relief. Her heart pounded against her chest. This time, it was because of joy. Ghost. Chapter 408. Michael held the chain in one hand and looked down at Gaia. A gentle smile merged on his face regardless of the burning anger within his heart. I will take care of this with the other hand. He ruffled her head playfully, then he stepped forward, shielding her with his body. Jacoby furrowed his creases. He didn't sense or hear someone coming. Rather he just suddenly appeared behind Gaia. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 6,000 badass points. Jacoby wasn't threatened by his appearance though, because he did his research on Ghost. Jacobus' plan A was to separate Gaia from Ghost and deal with her alone. His job got a lot easier when he met Gaia in a zaire far away from Ghost and her friends. The sudden appearance of Ghost would make apprehending Gaia difficult as he would have to either subdue Ghost or kill him. Nonetheless, it wasn't impossible. He would just need to switch to his plan B. Put that down, Michael's voice was rough. It was filled with cold murderous intent. Seeing the blood dripping down her lips, he was on the verge of losing control of himself. Xianxia, the bolt of lightning hit Jacobus' wrist with deadly accuracy. He dropped the satchel in pain. So quick, Jacoby was completely stunned by his speed. Gaia quickly reached out her hand towards the satchel as the satchel came flying to her. Michael did not cast any spell but walked towards Jacoby with absolute killing intent in his eyes. Boom! Before even Jacoby could finish his spell casting, Michael appeared in front of him and punched him in the gut with enough force to send him flying. Arg! A deep fist-shaped dent formed by Michael's punch in Jacobus' armor. The armor was forged to endure a tremendous amount of attacks. Yet, a single punch deformed the armor. In addition to the dent, Jacobus felt the pain of his ribs breaking. He tried to pick himself up when Ghost dashed at him again. Boom! This time, Michael kicked Jacoby in the gut. The force of the kick sent Jacoby flying yet again. He hit a tree hard before falling down. Rage Shield. Ignoring the sharp pain in his gut due to the kick, Jacoby cast a defense spell. Immediately a glistening fiery red bubble materialized around him. Without giving Ghost the time to cast another spell, Jacoby jumped up to stand on his feet. He saw Ghost was walking towards him with his fist clenched. Jacoby noticed the half-moon in the sky. The area should be bright but everything around him was darker than it was supposed to be. Tiger Claw. Fist of Justice. Elemental Spikes. Jacoby cast spell after spell. The first spell formed a crimson-red claw the size of a grown elephant directly above Michael. On his side, a fist the same size as the claw materialized. As the name suggests, the Elemental Spike spell sent sharp spikes made of elements such as fire, ice, earth, and lightning. Boom! Boom! Simultaneously the claw and fist hit Ghost. Jacoby saw Ghost neither move nor evade to avoid the claw and the fist. The force of the attacks created an ash cloud around Ghost, preventing both Gaia and Jacoby from looking at Ghost. Wind Blast. Jacoby suddenly heard Ghost's voice. The very next second, a gust of strong wind blasted away the ash cloud. Ghost revealed himself. There was not a scratch on his body. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 2,000 badass points. Jacoby couldn't believe what he had just seen. Looking directly into Jacobus' eyes for a second, Michael raised his hand. Xianxia, 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 Xianxia. Several bolts of lightning shot towards Jacoby. He tried to evade them and he did manage to avoid one, but when he avoided one bolt of lightning, another hit him in the ribcage. The moment of slowness resulted in Jacoby getting bombarded with lightning bolts. Michael focused on his limbs, especially on his legs. Arg! 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 Jacoby kept growling. No matter how hard he tried to escape, he simply couldn't. His rage shield was penetrated by the lightning bolts like a hot knife cutting through butter. There was no stopping the lightning bolts. Instead of going for the kill shot, Michael kept barraging Jacoby with lightning bolts. His fury found no bound when he saw Gaia kneeling. Jacoby was just a core strengthening stage level 2 cultivator. On the other hand, Michael was at level 3, which made him stronger than Jacoby by default. With all his spell upgrades, he would be undefeatable to anyone under core strengthening stage level 5 in his ghost persona. In his complete Lucifer form, anyone under core strengthening stage level 7 had no chance of defeating or even hurting him a little. The distance between Jacoby and Ghost grew shorter and shorter. Still, Michael did not stop attacking him with lightning bolts. All of Jacobus' assessment of Ghost became wrong, way wrong. He was being overpowered by Ghost and saw no chance of escaping unless he could use the chains on Ghost and render him powerless. Puff! Suddenly Jacoby used all of his strength to grab a handful of sand beneath him before throwing it at Ghost's face. It was an underhanded technique, but everything was fair in a life-or-death battle. Ghost momentarily closed his eyes as Jacoby immediately called out the chain. In a blink of an eye, the chain materialized in his hand. He wasted no time as he immediately wrapped the chain around Ghost. He ran the chain around him a couple of times to make sure he was tightly tied. You! Gaia burned in anger. She was just about to dash at Jacoby when she saw Ghost rip off the chain as though it was a hemp rope. There was no slow motion, no fancy movements, and no dialogues. He just ripped off the chain in a second. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 3,000 badass points. The chain lost its glimmer in his hand. What? Jacoby cried out in shock. Arg! In his momentary shock, he received an elbow to his gut from Ghost. The next moment, Jacoby was being wrapped around by the chain. Pow! 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 Michael grabbed Jacobus' throat and began to punch him in the face with all his strength. The blood spurted out more and more with each punch. The skull of Jacoby began to cave in. The light of life slowly faded away, yet Michael did not even slow down the speed of his punches. He lifted Jacoby from the ground while punching him. In his fury, he was walking towards a tree. Bam! Michael slammed Jacoby against a tree as the large tree shuddered. It lost almost half of its leaves due to the force. One could see Michael's eyes flicker in red. The rage Michael kept within him exploded like a volcano. Even Gaia, who was enjoying the beatdown, began to freak out when she saw Ghost keep punching Jacoby mercilessly. The Ghost she knew before leaving for the Fire Realm would have killed Jacoby by now. However, he just kept going. He even began to miss his punches. Those missed punches landed onto the tree. The tree caved in because of his punches. Arg! The cry didn't come out of Jacoby but from Michael. He was in rage mode. The lingering light in Jacobus' eyes enraged Michael. He wanted to beat Jacoby to death. Because of his rage, he failed to notice the small grenade appear in Jacobus' hands. Human! Gaia, however, noticed the grenade. She shouted, dashing towards Michael. However, it was too late as the bomb exploded with a loud bang. The ear-piercing sound coupled with a bright flash of light disoriented Gaia. She stumbled down. For a few moments, the world around her spinned unstoppingly. Fortunately, the bomb Jacoby used was a stun grenade. While Ghost and Gaia were in a disoriented state, he mustered the leftover strength in his body to run. The first thing he did was chug a healing potion. The punches broke his jaw, but he still managed to drink a healing potion. Obviously, one healing potion was not enough, yet it gave him enough strength to run away. The healing potion he drank was extremely powerful. It was brewed by none other than Ghost himself. He was dashing into the forest, and just when he was about to take off, an invisible energy force blasted him off. Arg! Jacoby growled. He was just a few minutes away from escaping. Only, suddenly out of nowhere, a gruff voice echoed through the forest. The next moment, a large dragon descended through the canopy and landed directly beside Jacoby. The dragon stomped Jacoby as he spurted out mouth full of blood. I can hit her. Jacoby struggled to breathe under the feet of Nightmare. Jacobus' eyes opened as wide as they could. He began to struggle violently because he saw the dragon's body begin to glow brighter and brighter. It was the indication of the dragon's breath. Whoosh! Ugh, gah, kai. Jacoby lost his calm composure. When the dragon's breath came out of Nightmare's mouth, he screamed like a scared cat. His scream of agony reverberated the forest. Although he was a core strengthening stage level 2 cultivator, he was injured by Michael to the point of death. Coupled with that point, Nightmare was able to overpower Jacoby with his core formation level 6 cultivation. His superior physical size and strength gave him an advantage over Jacoby. Finally, the dragon's breath ended Jacobus' life. Chapter 409. The moon was showering the land beneath with its sparkling blue light. The millions of stars generously provided their light, partnering with the moon. Under the two natural light sources, the forest remained in silence. Except for the songs of night crickets and the rustling of flora, there was no sound to be heard. In the scorched area of the forest, Michael and Gaia were standing on opposite sides. They spoke no words for a few minutes. Their eyes were locked onto each other. Either of them had so many things to say to the other. However, no words came out of their mouths, at least from Gaia's mouth. Her eyes watered with a mix of joy and worry. She was afraid of how he might act. After all, she disappeared leaving a simple letter. Michael noticed her core strengthening stage level 2 cultivation. Granted, he expected her to become stronger, but at the moment, he couldn't care less about cultivation levels. He was glad and elated to see her back in one piece. Snaky, Michael smiled, breaking the silence between them. Human Gaia just dashed at him as fast as she could, dropping the satchel with Vidora in it on the ground. She came running to him before leaping at him like a tiger. She wrapped her legs around his waist and hugged him with all her might. He returned the favor as he hugged her as tight as he could. Both of them embraced each other without any intention to let the other go. They both missed the warmth of the other. Deep down, both of them yearned for the other one's touch. All of their senses were having a blast. They took in each other's smell, touch, warmth, and embrace to the fullest. Gaia frantically began to shower him with kisses. The stubble beard did not stop her from landing passionate kisses on his cheeks. She cupped his face and kept kissing him without uttering a word. Vidora crawled out of the satchel to see Michael and Gaia locked into passionate kissing. Soon she changed her target from cheeks to his lips. Her kiss was fueled with passion and wild, heated love. He could not hold back as he ran his fingers through her hair to grab her by the head. He pulled her closer, flaming the fire of their love. They savored each second of the kiss. Nothing bothered them for long minutes. They forgot about their worries and enjoyed the moment. Gaia pulled Michael towards her with both her hands and legs that wrapped around his waist. While the lovers were enjoying the passionate moment of tenderness, Nightmare's vertically slit pupils became rounded, noticing Vidora in the distance. Immediately, Nightmare shrunk himself to the size of a puppy before running towards the three-headed Hydra to welcome them back home. For Nightmare, Cain and Sarba were the little brothers as Iag was a bratty little sister. He loved them dearly and they too loved Nightmare. Iag, Cain, Sarba, Nightmare reached Vidora in a few blinks of an eye. "Hey brother," Sarba greeted Nightmare with a wide grin. Chapter 410, Yes. Do that. Michael willed the system to create an invitation for Gaia. He could face the problems thrown at him by others, but it would be difficult to face those problems when he was dealing with a problem within. The third persona problem had to be solved before doing anything. "So your mother is still alive?" Nightmare asked Gaia. She sighed, but several seconds after deep thinking, she reluctantly nodded. "I think so. Human, do something and bring me with you to the Aquilon realm. Let's go beat the crap out of that elf." He might know a way to get there without the invitation. Since he told her about the invitation he received to join Mazeroth, she wanted to come with him to the Aquilon realm. She was completely stunned when she first heard him. Perhaps it was luck or perhaps it was a coincidence. Either way, Gaia was surprised to the core. "Getting you to the Aquilon realm is not a problem," he shook his head. "The problem is dealing with Zenali and hiding your identity." After spending 100,000 badass points on creating an invitation to Gaia, he had 60,000 badass points left. The special rune which would hide Gaia's identity cost 200,000 badass points. Therefore, he needed 140,000 badass points immediately. He could earn that if he remained in Elon and made an appearance in the alchemy competition. However, time was of the essence. The longer he spent in Elon, the more problems would occur. Gaia was not safe anymore. The best way seemed like visiting the Aquilon realm with Gaia, finding the dark elf Gaia's mother told her about, trying to find answers, and leaving the realm as soon as possible. Chapter 411, Close to avenging Jack's death, Michael, Gaia said. Countless emotions got stirred up by the word. It had been decades since someone called him Michael. Michael. Yet again she called him. She did not let go of him as she still had him locked in her embrace. Michael again and again, she called him by his name until Michael began to chuckle. Okay, he took his head off her shoulder and cupped her head. With a bright grin on his face, he playfully rubbed his nose on her nose before giving her a gentle headbutt. His soft kiss on her forehead warmed her heart. "Still, I like to call you human." As Michael put his arm around her neck, she pinched his cheek. Forgetting all of his problems for a while, He walked around the forest with Gaia. Being with her felt different than being alone. It was like all of his problems became puny when he was with her. Moreover, the bloodlust diminished from his heart. He wondered if Gaia leaving him was the reason for the third persona to appear. Did I tell you that we have a guardian to interrogate? Yeah. Let's go celebrate our special day with good old-fashioned torture. He, she chuckled. Her reaction made Michael chuckle too. You are so evil. Are you sure you don't have any alternate personas within you? I have, and you will see them after marriage. She sounded like a cartoon villain. Her evil laughter echoed through the forest. Regardless of his problems, he couldn't help laughing with her. It was so funny. On their way back to the underground mansion, they did not fly but just walked, enjoying each other's company. For Michael, it felt like he was taking a walk in the park with his fiancée. All the way to the mansion, he had his arm around her neck while her hand was around his waist. When it came to romantic gestures, Ghost beat Noah every time. Noah's love was spread to multiple girls, but Ghost only loved Gaia. All of his love was directed towards Gaia. That didn't mean Noah didn't love the girls in his harem. However, he was too busy solving every single girl's problems instead of actually spending time with them. No matter how busy Michael was, he always made time for Gaia. Sometimes Gaia wondered how they could call him evil. When they entered the mansion, Azazel appeared before them to greet them. How are they? Gaia asked. They are sleeping with Lord Nightmare, my lady. Gaia nodded on her way to their room. She stayed outside making zero noise. Then she slowly opened the door to peek through the gap to see Vidora cuddling with Nightmare. They were sleeping under Nightmare's wings. Ayag's head was on Nightmare's face with her mouth wide open. Sarba and Kane slept peacefully under Nightmare's warm body. I can't believe they will soon grow up, she smiled as Michael put his hand on her shoulder to reassure her. For a few moments, she rested her head on his hand and watched them sleeping. Azazel, tell Dalar to come to the Guardian's chamber with an undead. Michael let Gaia take the lead as torturing was not his strong suit. He preferred to kill instead of torture. At the moment, Connors was tied to a tree in the pocket dimension attached to the mansion. He was unconscious. Michael injected enough knockout potion into his body to keep him unconscious for several days. In addition to the potion, he had to buy specialized chains from the system store to tie him up. Usually, the Guardians used a chain with specialized runes to keep a cultivator tied. These chains were extremely expensive. This was why rune mastery was the highest paid skill in the world. They could make a piece of junk into an enhanced magical item. Since Michael had no time to go shopping and it would raise suspicions if his underlings bought these expensive chains, Michael decided to buy them from the system store. Connor's consciousness slowly returned to him. He felt a sharp pain on his cheek. While growling, he opened his eyes. The last thing he remembered was getting knocked down by the woman with Lucifer back on a ship. His eyes twitched due to seeing a light after a long time. As his blurry vision cleared up, he saw Lucifer standing in front of him. The surroundings surprised Connors. He was outside as he could hear the sound of a waterfall in the distance, birds chirping, and as far as he could see, there was not a single man-made structure. The tall mountains stood around as though they were guards of Lucifer. Connors tried to move his limbs, but he noticed he had been tied to the chair. He looked at his wrists to see the silver chains. The chains gave him some hope because he recognized the chain. If Lucifer was using the chains, that meant they were no longer on the southern continent. Our guardian is awake. Wonderful, Connor's body jerked when he heard a voice all of a sudden. He couldn't turn back, but soon he saw another figure walking from his behind. The figure wore armor similar to Lucifer, but the figure looked feminine. The shape of the armor indicated whoever wearing the armor was a woman. Connors was staggered by the two of them. The Guardians were thinking Lucifer was working alone. They did not even suspect there might be two Lucifers, let alone one woman and one man. Guardian Connors, regardless of her feminine look, the figure sounded exactly the same as Lucifer. The unearthly animalistic voice still freaked him out no matter how many times he had heard it before. We have some questions for you. And you're gonna answer them like a good boy. Connors didn't know how many days had been out. The faith in the Guardians was not as strong as before. He joined Guardians to climb the ranks and live long enjoying a wealthy life. Getting tortured was not in his mind. He had two choices. He could try to stall them and hope for the Guardians to appear, but the possibility of that to happen was extremely slim. The second choice was to answer their questions and hope they won't torture him and let him live. What?
What do you want to know? Gaia was surprised. Behind her mask, one could see her brows arch up. She did not expect the Guardian to drop his shield just like that.
Again, when she thought about it, it wasn't much of a surprise to her as she knew the Guardians valued their lives more than their duty as a Guardian. Only a few handfuls of Guardians valued the principles of the Guild more than their lives, such as Noah, Peyton, and probably Zenali.
Tell us everything about Operation New Dawn, Lucifer asked as Connors was startled to the core.
How did he know?
Connors asked himself. His body shivered. Sweat began to appear uncontrollably through every single one of his pores. There was only one thing that could tie him to the New Dawn operation. An access card with the name Operation New Dawn etched onto its surface. The reason he kept the card was that it was made of pure gold. He planned to use that card and negotiate with Alpha Guardian to climb up the rank. Off-the-books operations were risky, but they also came with opportunities. Keeping his mouth shut about Operation New Dawn was not worth losing his life. Hence, he decided to spew out everything he knew about the operation. There was no information about the operation that would make Lucifer torture him to death. You can start by telling us what was the goal of this operation? And who ran it? Asked Michael gruffly.
The feeling of something amiss whirled inside his heart. Gaia strolled towards him and put her hand on Connor's shoulder. She drummed her fingers on his shoulder. Come on, Guardian. Peyton was the lead.
She put together a team to find clues about you. Oh, as Michael had expected, Gaia's voice sounded surprised. What were the odds of a Guardian they knew personally to run the operation that aimed to take them down? If Peyton was running the operation, Zenali would definitely be involved. I assume there were others in your team. Names, said Gaia sharply. Hashira Seo, Alberto Pirani and Xavier Rogers. Connors listed the names without a second of interruption. For him, ratting out their names was no big deal. After all, they weren't the ones tied to the chair and being interrogated by two scary people. And Noah Winston. Connors never liked Noah. Ever since he joined the team, all the girls including the red-haired hottie were too mingled with him. Which obviously annoyed Connors. He felt threatened by Noah. So Connors wanted to put Noah in the crosshairs of Lucifer. What was your role in the team? Asked Gaia, tightening her grip on his shoulder. We each got a target. We followed, surveyed and reported back to Peyton. Who is your target, Guardian Connors?
Ghost, Connors stammered.
Michael's red eyes flickered.
With a few steps forward, he came before him. If you had followed him, then you must know how much sins Ghost and the people around him committed. Gaia was bewildered by his words but decided to play along.
In my eyes, those who had the power to punish the evil and chose not to are the worst kind. So tell me, Guardian Connors, have you punished the evil as a guardian should? Have you punished Ghost or his lackeys? Your answer will decide whether you leave here alive or dead. What the hell? Gaia's mind had so many questions. Still, her mind quickly came to a conclusion that made her blood boil. A life for a life. If you had taken a life of a sinner, you will be forgiven, Michael bluffed.
His flickering red eyes hid the murderous intent within him.
At the place where Jack died, he saw two words: GG. Chapter 412. Avenging Jack's death. Jack's death affected Gaia more than it affected Michael. For Gaia, Jack was like an annoying little brother. He always came running to her whenever he got into trouble, which was a lot. Everywhere she went, she could hear Sister Elia from his mouth. She never thought she would miss him so much. Michael, on the other hand, didn't grieve as much as Gaia, but he promised Jack that he would avenge his death. I did. I punished evil, said Connors quickly. Whom did you punish? Michael was feeling the anger growing inside him as though a large balloon was swelling inside him. For a few moments, Connors went silent. He did not remember the name. He picked his brain to remember to recall the name of the youngster he killed while surveying Ghost. Finally, after a few moments of silence, Connors remembered the name. There was a big funeral for the youngster in the Sunrise sect, and Peyton ordered him to attend the funeral so he could learn more about the people close to Ghost. As far as Peyton was concerned, the youngster was killed by a bandit or a group of bandits.
Jack, the words barely escaped his mouth.
Jack, Gaia boomed. You killed Jack? When she spoke, every syllable trembled with rage. Connors gulped, but no words came out of his mouth. Michael took a step back as she came before Connors. There was no saving Connors, and honestly, there was no point in saving Connors.
The feeling of anger building within worried him already. He was focused on controlling his anger while Gaia grabbed Connor's neck. "You killed Jack," she hissed, her voice becoming more animalistic and otherworldly. Connors had gone too far. He killed someone Gaia cared about. Never in a million years, she would have cared for a human 18 months ago. After meeting Ghost and joining the sect, she had a family, a real family that cared for her. Although she did not express her fondness to them clearly, she cherished them in her heart. By killing Jack, Connors had crossed the line. Azazel tells Dalar there is no need for him to come here. Michael used the telepathic connection he shared with Azazel to inform him. Connors was confused by the sudden change in her behavior. One moment she was listening to him calmly from behind and the next, she was radiating immense killing intent. "You fool!" She was so furious that words didn't come out of her mouth. "Thud." She raised her leg and kicked Connors in the chest with enough force to send his chair flinging like a kite in the storm. The chain still held him to the chair but the force of the kick loosened up a bit. Yet, Connors was not in the state to yank the chain to release himself. He felt as if his ribs were cracked by the kick. She flew towards Connors in a blink of an eye to continue her thrashing. Michael did not stop her and did not even think about stopping her. Connors was just a core formation cultivator. Even if he escaped from his chains, there was no escape from Gaia. They had already taken his space ring as well as scanned him for any artifacts that would make him escape. Arg! Connors let out a cry as Gaia stomped him on the chest. It seemed like she wasn't going to use any spells to torture him other than her own raw strength. Regardless of the blood spraying out of Connor's mouth, she kept stomping him to the point the chair crumbled to pieces. Arg! The furious cry came out of Gaia's mouth as she picked up the chain lying on the ground. Cling! 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 She was beating the crap of Connors with a chain. Every single swing had pure rage. His skin was splitting open and blood came out almost every single part of his body. Then, she stopped beating him. She was breathing heavily, not because of exhaustion from beating him but in fury. With a flick of her wrist, a bunch of healing potions appeared in her hand. She squatted down and forced the healing potion down into his throat. The healing potion she used was not enough for Connors to get back to his full strength though. It was just enough to heal his wounds inside and out so he could sustain more beatings. Instead of standing up, she grabbed Connors by his head while squatting beside him and began to punch him in the face and chest furiously. The green grass under Connors turned red. The soil was soaked in blood. His consciousness was drifting away when she forced another healing potion down his throat. It had been 3 hours since she began to beat the hell out of Connors. Michael was standing still and watching Gaia going berserk on him. She got really creative with Connors. She landed punches and kicks on every part of Connors' body. No matter how hard Connors cried, she did not show him a shred of mercy. After the second hour of getting beaten by Gaia, Connors began to beg for death. Michael would have felt pity for any other man but not for Connors. He murdered Jack, who was a naive innocent guy, in cold blood. The reasons for Connors' actions did not matter to Michael. In fact, he couldn't care less about the reasons. Connors killed Jack, who adored Michael and Gaia. As far as Michael was concerned, Connors deserved this, and so does Peyton, who put together the New Dawn operation, and anyone who knew the truth about Jack's truth. Where the fuck is Dalar? Her rageful shout reverberated the entire pocket dimension. Azazel, change of plans, send Dalar to me with an undead. Yes, my lord. A few minutes later, Dalar appeared in the pocket dimension with an undead. The orc had grown quite a bit as he now stood almost 6 feet 8 inches. In addition to his physical growth, he had also reached core formation level 6. Michael would have been disappointed if the orc didn't break through to the core formation stage because Michael had provided hundreds of thousands worth of potions and pills to Dalar. The undead standing beside Dalar was growling. Black gooey liquid oozed out of its mouth and nose as though it was drooling at the blood sprayed from Connors. Except for the missing genitals, the undead zombie had everything of a human. The putrid smell that came from the zombie's grayish skin would have made Michael twitch his nose if it wasn't for the mask. Dalar wanted to bow and greet Lucifer, yet his eyes were glued to Gaia mercilessly beating a human. Come here! Gaia thundered yet again. Dalar's legs automatically began to walk in her direction. The undead dragged its feet to follow him behind. The next moment, Azazel's ethereal body materialized beside Michael. My lord, Azazel. Michael turned his gaze aside to see Azazel looking at him with a bewildered look on his face. The demon butler was obviously curious to know why Gaia was thrashing Connors instead of interrogating him. He killed Jack, he simply said as Azazel gave him a long nod. Azazel wasn't familiar with Jack, but he knew his death affected Gaia. After he started surveillance, she gave him an order to look out for anyone who might have killed Jack. She asked him to look for clues, although they both knew at that time it was a long shot. From Nightmare, he heard the full story of Jack as well as everyone from the Sunrise sect. My lady, despite the size and horrifying look that all the orcs had, Delar was freaked out by Dark Queen. She was scarier than Lucifer himself. When Lucifer was training with undeads, by training, he meant slaughtering netherils left and right. Lucifer would focus on killing them efficiently, swift and quick. However, Dark Queen was more sadistic. She would rip them apart, beat them to pulp and laugh out loud while killing them. As an orc who grew up with a bunch of violent bloodthirsty orcs, Delar knew a sadistic vicious being when he saw one. Gaia was definitely on the top of his list of vicious ones. Delar noticed a bunch of empty vials lying around the poor human who was getting beaten to death. Except for a small piece of tunic covering the human's genitals, there was no cloth on his body. His skin was riddled with scratch marks. It seemed like the Dark Queen was clawing and scratching him with her sharp claws. "Make it eat him," said Gaia, gritting her teeth. For a moment, Delar couldn't realize the meaning of her words. "Make it eat him," she spoke every word full of rage. Delar saw several healing potions appear in her hand. Now he realized what those empty vials were. "Don't let him die. Heal him and make it eat his flesh slow and painful. I want to hear his screams." This was borderline sickening to Michael. Yet he couldn't get himself to stop her. Deep within his heart, he wanted her to continue. At this moment, Michael realized that something really broke within him. He wanted to fix that as soon as possible before he turned into something the Guardians claimed. "No, please. No," Connor stuttered only to get a kick to his mouth. His jaw cracked. "You murdered someone I really cared about. Your death should satisfy him." Gaia spoke with her grave voice. She then looked up at the sky. "Are you seeing this, Jack? Your murderer is suffering." During the following hours, Connor's scream filled the pocket dimension. No mercy was shown to him until Nightmare chose to end his life once and for all. Chapter 413, Throwing a Party. After throwing away Connor's body, Michael and Gaia left the dark forest with Nightmare accompanying them. Vidora stayed in the mansion as they planned. Gaia promised them to bring a lot of snacks and reading materials for Kane. "Do you remember the times we went to buy some alchemy stuff for you in Bradford and Jade bitch messed with us?" She amused, nodded Michael, recalling the past events. It felt as though everything happened yesterday. "That bitch Peyton spied on us. We spy on others, not the other way around. We should find her and make an example out of her before going to you." She stuck her tongue out. "School? No, Arya can take care of spying on her. We should leave for Maze Roth as soon as possible." She was flying a couple of meters ahead of him, but when he heard him, she flew closer to him. Her face showed signs of concern. "You will be okay, human. We are gonna find the dark elf in the tree and fix you." Rather than speak anything, he just nodded. Positivity was the thing that kept him going ever since he was born. He couldn't think he won't be cured at all at this point. He had to stay positive and hope the dark elf in the tree would have answers for all of their problems. 3 hours of flying later, Gaia saw the outskirts of the Sunrise sect after a long time. The images of shabby buildings in the mountain range flashed across her mind as she flew closer and closer to the sect. Now the sect looked completely different. Alive, that was the word that best described the sect. Even from a distance, they could see the lines of carriages going in and out of the mountain, groups of nobles dressed in fancy clothes, youngsters dressed in their new black Sunrise sect uniform, buildings built with eye-catching architecture, and neatly pruned trees and plants. The mountain range was buzzing with chit-chatter of people. There was only a barren land void of buildings in the mountain, which was supposed to have the main headquarters of the sect and a huge library. "Remind me to draw plans for the main building and library." She directed her request towards Nightmare. The dragon was enjoying the flying and occasionally sticking his tongue out against the wind. "Stop that brat." Despite her warning, Nightmare kept sticking his tongue out. Rolling her eyes at Nightmare, she descended towards Claire's manor, which now acted as the headquarters. Claire dealt with all the sect business in her manor. "Look, brother Ghost. Is that Sister Elia?" "Yay, she is back." "Oh my god, a dragon. They are back." The disciples on the ground cheered excitedly. The senior disciples who spent more time with Gaia and Michael were a little too excited. Those girls were jumping up and down, clapping their hands together.
You two have an important announcement to make. So go ahead. Ill deal with your fans club. Nightmare willed himself to grow a bit bigger. A few seconds later when they landed on the ground, he had grown into the size of a fully grown elephant. Hey guys, if you hug me. Michael greeted them with a smile as usual while Gaia warned the girls not to hug her because they looked like they were going to squeeze her to death. Most of the disciples were stopped from reaching Ghost and Gaia by Nightmare. Of course, those disciples were happy to feel the scales of a dragon and remain so close to one. After this day, they could brag about them being friends with Nightmare, which would surely let them land a girlfriend or boyfriend from either of the three big sections. The corridors were lit with mini light bulbs which looked like the miniature version of chandeliers. Many of the lights were switched off or put out by the maids because the sun was rising on the horizon and soon, the mansion would be filled with natural sunlight. As the narrow corridors opened up to the spacious hall, they saw little Cindy meditating on the sofa. Her eyes abruptly opened as though she sensed their arrival. Sister Elia. Cindy jumped up from the sofa so fast, shouting in her childish voice. Brother. She leaped into the air and flew towards them with her hands wide open. Cindy wished she had bigger arms so she could hug both of them so tight. Gaia caught her in the mid-air. You've grown up. Soon, you won't be a tiny human anymore. Gaia ruffled Cindy's head frantically, making her neatly combed and ponytailed hair into a mess. Amua, 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 Amua. Cindy showered Gaia with kisses. She cupped Gaia's face with her little hand and kept kissing her. Elia, her rapid kisses were interrupted by Claire's voice. They looked up to see Claire climbing down the stairs. Her face was beaming in joy seeing Elia after a long time. Ghost snatched Cindy from her hands as Claire hugged Gaia without uttering a word. Michael squeezed her baby cheeks and gave her a kiss on the fluffy cheeks. Where did you go, brother? Elia, I'm glad you are fine. Where were you? We were worried, still keeping her in the hug, Claire asked. We are engaged. Gaia avoided answering the question by stunning Claire. Gaia felt the hug getting tighter. Claire let go of Gaia and then grabbed her hands to see the ring on her finger. For a few moments, Claire did not speak anything. She just stared at Gaia with utter shock. But soon, her face brightened up as she hugged her yet again even tighter. I am so happy for you too. We must celebrate this. Ghost come here. While holding Gaia in her hug, she reached out to hug him too. Since she was looking funny holding out her hand, Michael reluctantly joined the group hug. After almost 5 minutes of hugging, she finally let them go. Cindy seemed confused about what made Claire so happy. She kept gawking at the adults in the room. Ghost took the single cedar sofa while Claire forced Gaia to sit beside her. She squeezed Gaia's hand. Cindy on the other hand left the hall to play with her friends after giving everyone a loving kiss on their cheeks. You two enjoy your days before leaving for Emazaroth. I'm gonna throw a huge party at Hades. We should invite everyone we know. Usually, Ghost would have rejected Claire's idea. But this seemed to be a good way to get closer to Peyton and place the spy cam on her. Moreover, he could invite many important figures and spy on them too. Mazeroth was connected to Sky Hall, which was more powerful than the great clans themselves. Hence, letting people know that he was connected with Sky Hall through Mazeroth would boost his reputation as well as prevent the powers such as the three big sects from thinking of harming the Sunrise sect. Even the Guardians might think twice before messing with him in the future if he was connected with Sky Hall. Granted, Sky Hall could be more dangerous to him than the Guardian Guild. It didn't stop Michael from turning the invitation into an opportunity and a platform to spread his influence. We should do it, Ghost. Gaia agreed with Claire. Somehow Michael felt as Gaia also planned to use the party as a way to get closer to Peyton. Like it or not, you are a king now. And a king needs connections. Parties like these will get you just that. Claire was used to the wisdom of Gaia when it comes to managing. Be that it was managing the sect or the restaurant, she always had the best plans in her mind. Claire lost the count of times Gaia helped her with the problems in the sect. Besides, it had been so long since I ate Raylene's cooking. Gaia licked her lips. The fury in her eyes about Jack's death slowly disappeared after meeting Cindy and Claire. By the way, where is your grandpa, Claire? Asked Gaia as the brightness in Claire's face slowly dimmed down. She sighed. Ever since he came back, he's spending all his time in the Royal Land Library. You know, I do want to find Mom and break the curse permanently. When he told me everything, I wanted to go to R myself and search for Mom. What changed? Asked Gaia. She knew the pain Claire is going through. Her mother was alive, yet Claire was too weak to look for her. That pain and helplessness would soon turn into a self-blame.
Gaia didn't want Claire to go on the road of self-destruction.
Everyone, Elia. Everyone told me not to rush and they are right. I can't get myself or Grandpa killed or worse end up in prison. We need to deal with the problem cautiously.
Any mishap and yet another tragedy would fall on us. Michael and Gaia both felt pity for Claire. Although they wanted to help her, now was not the time to get meddled with the elves who were the most powerful race in the entire world. Going against them at this point in time would be nothing but suicidal.
I'm glad you're being patient, sect leader Claire.
Focus on getting stronger. No one will mess with you if you are the top dog in the yard, said Michael leaning back on his sofa. And all of a sudden, Claire seemed like she had remembered something. King Bredia's men are waiting for you in Bradford Manor. You still haven't gone to check out the treasury. He almost forgot about the treasury visit amidst his problems. This was the last thing he planned to do in Elon before departing to Mazeroth. He just hoped he would find something interesting in the treasury. Little did he know, he is going to find something that would make him the most dangerous man in the world. Chapter 4:14. Like taking candy from a baby. The kingdom of Bredia is a little country with a population of almost 300,000 people, including a small population of beast men. Bordered by a river to the north, a small sea to the south, a bamboo forest to the east, and woodlands to the west, the country of Bredia mainly thrived in wood production, mining, and foreign trade as well as tourism. The country's landscape was cheerful. Impressive architecture, jade green fields, and green, open fields were just a sliver of the elegance Bredia had to offer, which was why the country was treasured among foreigners. The people of Bredia were neighborly towards foreigners and tended to welcome them with open arms. They felt foreigners could fortify the country's well-being. Bredia had moderate laws and law enforcement, which was expected in their circumstances. The people were troubled by the growing bandit problems as Bredia had a lot of forests that had been used by the bandits to hide. The kingdom was divided into 3 baronies: Bradford, Whiteridge, and Sarton on top of the capital where the king resides. After the tournament, 3 baronies were reduced to 2 as Bradford became a kingdom itself under Ghost. There was visible tension among the people after what happened in the tournament. Many criticized King Bredia for letting go of Bradford while some sympathized with the king. Instead of carriages suited for the king, Michael decided to fly to the capital along with the group of escorts King Bredia sent. The 1/3 of the army King Bredia agreed to give him had just reached Bradford and were making themselves at home. It would take at least a couple of weeks for them to relocate their families according to Gaia. It was Gaia's idea to relocate the soldiers' families to Bradford. She was already having a meeting with Elder Sandra to discuss the financial side of things needed for relocation. The plus side of this was Bradford had so many empty lands which could be used to build new homes. The downside was it would take some time before finishing all the new homes required. According to Gaia, until the soldiers completely sever their ties with Bredia, their loyalty would remain to King Bredia instead of Ghost and her. It made sense to Michael, hence he went with her plan. After all, she had more knowledge and experience in ruling than him. She was so excited as he had never seen Gaia act so excited. We have so much work to do. How long will this take? Asked Gaia while flying towards the capital of Bredia. The 5 of the escorts flying in front of them had 3 armed soldiers who seemed to be the royal guards, and one of the remaining 2 was an old man in his 70s while the other was a middle-aged man dressed in crimson-red robes. The 2 of them were visibly surprised. They didn't expect the king and his girlfriend would travel to another place, a place that viewed them as enemies without any soldiers or bodyguards. Obviously, Ghost was powerful but not that powerful to escape the wrath of an entire country if they chose to attack him. After almost 3 hours of flying, the outskirts of the capital began to come into their view. The city was surrounded by a city wall made of granite stones. Golden paddy fields blanketed the land outside of the city walls, creating beautiful scenery. While flying forwards, the 2 men without wearing the metal armor drew some signs in the air as golden runes materialized before them. The golden runes flew towards the city before fading away. Then nothing happened. They just continued their journey towards the castle that remained tall and majestic at the end of the city. The castle of Bredia wasn't as majestic as the castle of House Kane. In fact, it was not even fair for this castle to be compared with House Kane. Still, the castle was elegant. 10 slim, round towers that looked as though they were piercing the sky were the first they saw of this castle and were connected by giant, firm walls made of white stone contrary to the blackish granite stone city wall. Tall, wide windows were scattered generously around the walls in seemingly perfect symmetry, along with symmetric holes for archers and artillery. A moderate gate with hefty metal doors, a regular bridge, and various artillery equipment guarded the only passage into the castle built upon a mountain top. But it was not the only way in, which fortunately only very few know. Since they were flying, they had no need of going through the main gate and the guards. As they were flying towards the castle, they noticed the various large houses scattered outside the castle gates. Surprisingly, the rich were comfortable with living outside the gates as well. This castle showed signs of expansion as some parts were clearly built more recently than others. The inhabitants were already working on another part and hoped to keep expanding. Many children playing on the paved pathways looked up at them with their hands waving. Many nobles failed to notice them, but Michael noticed the several groups of people gathered on the streets with labels and signboards. If he had to guess, he would say they were waiting for him, not to welcome but to show their disapproval. Poor people, he, chuckled Gaia looking at the protesters. They seemed clueless, which amused Gaia. She couldn't care less about what these Bredians think. Michael noticed the two men show their objection to her laughter by frowning. Yet, they knew better to open their mouths. One of the tall towers had a metal door that glowed before opening. Through the tower, they flew down into the throne hall where he saw a young girl in a sparkling blue dress that screamed princess. When Michael and Gaia landed in the middle of the throne hall, she turned back. Immediately the gentle smile on her face disappeared. Instead, a rather cold and murderous look appeared on her face. If one had an acute sense of hearing, they could hear her teeth grinding against each other and the rising beats of her heart. "Your Royal Highness." The five of them bowed towards her in unison while Gaia was busy scratching her ear. She did not even look at the princess. Michael, on the other hand, remained calm and cool as usual. "Humph!" Princess Catherine snickered as she walked forward gracefully. "Where is the treasury?" asked Gaia, looking around the throne hall. She wasn't impressed by the throne hall. Not even a bit. Neither the modest braziers that enclosed each of the 14 alabaster columns light up the entire throne hall and engulf everything in a flickering radiance, nor did the lilac rug split the entire hall in half from the doors to the throne, while swallowtail banners with emblazoned tassels the walls impressed the Princess of Nagaland. She looked at the grand throne of bronze sitting atop a tall elevated platform quite a distance behind the princess. The throne was covered in hundreds of elaborate patterns, and fixed on each of the rather slim feet is a gemmed symbolic emblem. The fluffy pillows were a light lilac, and these too had been adorned with ornate quilting. Currently, the throne was empty as the king was nowhere to be seen. "The treasury will be the first place thieves would look for," the princess coldly said, shocking the men behind her. "Yeah, we hate thieves too." Michael let Gaia deal with the princess. It was funny to see Gaia talk to the princess with a serious face while she was obviously fanning Catherine's anger flames for fun. "Is that so?" Catherine gritted her teeth. "If you don't mind, lead the way please, princess. We have things to do, like ruling a kingdom," Gaia spoke, waving her hands. "Humph, follow me." Yet again the princess snickered before turning back. She then began to walk towards a silver door guarded by a fully armored soldier who stood 7 foot tall. The soldier stomped the ground with his leg as the silver door slid open to reveal the pathway lit with golden chandeliers. Only their steps could be heard as no one uttered any word. The 5 men who escorted Michael here remained silent while following them behind. "La la la la, to-do. To-do-to-do, la 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 la." Michael tried not to chuckle hearing Gaia singing. He didn't know the lyrics but enjoyed her funny gibberish. It seemed as though Gaia was trying to piss off Catherine. "Ta-ta-do, do-do-do-do. To-to-to, ta-ta-do, do-do-do-do. To-to-to, ta-ta-do, do-do-do-do. To-to-to, ta-ta-do, do-do-do-do. To-to-to, ta-ta-do, do-do-do-do. To-to-to." After hearing the same gibberish again and again for almost 15 minutes, Catherine couldn't hold back anymore. "Will you please shut up?" "Nope." "Hey Ghost, remind me to invite the Winstons to the party." "I already sent the invites," said Michael. "Leave them alone. They are good people." Catherine almost lost her composure. She did not want people like Ghost to get close to the Winstons. Especially after what he did to Andrews and her. "We are good people. If not for us, somebody would have been under 6 feet by now," said Gaia. The others felt the situation getting tensed up by the second. They just wanted to get this done before the 2 girls try to kill each other. "When the time comes, Andrews will settle his debt," Catherine said firmly. "Let us pick one more thing from the treasury and we'll call it even. We will forget about saving his but at that time forever. How about that, princess? Are you willing to settle your sweetheart's debt?" "You're Roy." The 2 unarmored men immediately tried to stop the princess, but it was too late as Catherine stopped them with a wave of her hand. She turned back to look at Gaia. I will settle his debt, but after this, you are never to speak of Andrews ever again. Deal. Michael couldn't believe how easily the princess got manipulated by Gaia. Unbelievable, Michael said to himself. Hey, like taking candy from a baby. Too easy, Gaia laughed out aloud inside. The princess was unbelievably easy to manipulate. Gaia almost felt bad for not asking for a couple of more items instead of asking for only one more. Chapter 4:15 Army of Undead. Lord Dalar. Dalar was busy poking a severed head on his table when he heard a voice. He didn't have to turn back because he knew who it was. An apprentice he never wanted in the first place but got impressed by the knowledge he possessed about the undeads. Jonah. Jonah was dragging a dead body that reeked of putrid smell into Dalar's workshop. The workshop was a spacious hall, yet there was no empty space. Every nook and cranny had something. The wooden racks were lined up against the walls. Jars filled with weird eyeballs, body parts, black goo in bottles, dead bodies with countless cuts, and various tools could be seen in the room. After getting teleported to this dark mansion, Jonah entered into seclusion according to Dark Queen's instructions. 3 months later, he was able to reach Foundation Stage Level 10 and a few days cultivation away from reaching the body refining stage. Meanwhile, during his breaks, he worked with Dalar to find out more about the undeads and the alpha undeads. Their combined knowledge of undeads enabled them to come up with the most efficient way to kill the undeads. They were just a few days away from finishing the tests and let the Dark Lord and the Dark Queen know about the breakthrough. This was only a side project though. The main project assigned to Dalar by the Dark Lord was to summon more powerful netherals from the Nether Realm. In addition to more powerful netherals, he tasked Dalar to find a way to summon more netherals at a time. Since Dalar reached level 7 of core formation and got proficient in summoning, he was able to summon 50 netherals at body strengthening stage level 9 at a time. If it wasn't for the Dark Lord's order to stop summoning more netherals than they could fit in the combat hall next door, they would have had an army of netherals. Of course, it made sense not to summon more and more netherals because of 2 reasons. 1, they had no place for the undead army. If they let the undeads roam around in Dark Forest, the Guardians would definitely sense the undead presence. Second, Dalar could only bound 150 undeads using the Book of Netherals. If he summoned more, they would wreak havoc, probably rip him apart piece by piece. The second reason led to his current experimentation with alpha undeads. The alpha undeads Michael encountered on the Undead Island had a certain level of sentience. They controlled the undeads just as Dalar without any Book of Netherals. I hope this one don't end up like the last one, Jonah sighed. The body he was dragging was an alpha. The Dark Lord gave them a potion that paralyzed the undead as well as knocked them out unconscious. Dalar and Jonah killed 3 alpha undeads in their experiment. They still had 2 more alpha undeads, and after that, they would have to ask the Dark Lord to capture more alpha undeads if there were any on the Undead Island. I'm close, I can feel it. I just need to figure out the telepathic signals produced by the brain of an alpha. If I could pinpoint the signals and mimic the signals somehow, I can control the undeads like an alpha, Dalar explained while poking the head of the alpha on the table. The room was dark and gloomy. Only a couple of luminous mushrooms attached to the ceiling were their light source. The faint blue light produced by the mushrooms was barely enough to see where something was at. The alpha undeads were apparently sensitive to bright light, including sunlight. Any kind of bright light would be harmful to the alpha. The light sensitivity was not enough to kill an alpha, but it was enough to disorient them by burning their skin. So where is the Dark Lord and the Dark Queen? I haven't even seen the floating butler. It's Azazel. What? Asked Jonah, the floating butler. His name is Azazel Boom. The head situated, getting poked by Dalar, suddenly exploded into bits and pieces. Jonah dashed aside to avoid the brain matter, yet he couldn't avoid them completely. Fuck! Dalar cursed as he punched the table with his big fist. Why the fuck can't I pinpoint the signals? At the moment, Ghost, Gaia, Catherine, and the 5 men were in front of the metal door with intricate symbols. The door stood almost 10 feet tall and 6 feet wide. The sheer size of the vault made Michael and Gaia excited to see the inside. Catherine placed her right hand on the silver door. Catherine Vince let Breedia. After Catherine spoke, the ground beneath them lightly shivered as they heard a heavy rumbling noise from the other side of the door. Soon, the thousands of weird symbols on the door sparkled. A few seconds later, the door gently opened itself to reveal the treasury. However, when the door opened completely, Michael was disappointed, to say the least, as he saw nothing but a dimly lit hall with several wooden racks. This is underwhelming, Gaia sighed. As a princess, She had some idea where they would have stored all the wealth, but she expected at least a few million worths of gems and gold coins.
"This is the treasury?" asked Michael, creasing his brows. "Of course it is.
So according to the agreement and my word, you can pick any two things from here." Catherine seemed to be enjoying their disappointment. They were not idiots to keep all of their wealth in a single place where security was an issue. Like most of the kingdoms in Elon and Azair, they kept their wealth in Grand Spire Bank vaults. Grand Spire Bank was the safest place to keep wealth and precious items. It was like the Gringotts of this world. Instead of goblins, Grand Spire was run by elves and dwarves. A few days ago, when the king returned to the capital, he transferred all the remaining wealth in the treasury to the Grand Spire Bank branch in Bredia with the help of the Adventurer Guild. Only items that were identified by the scholars and deemed as junk remained in the treasury. Michael had already took a huge chunk of Kingdom Bredia from the king, so he did not feel any murderous anger towards the king. After all, in time, everything in this world would belong to him. He stepped into a dimly lit hall with the hopes of at least finding something interesting. "System, scan everything in the room and let me know if you find something interesting. That will cost you 5,000 badass points." The system began to scan the entire hall. Gaia wanted to beat the crap out of the princess. Controlling her impulse to do so, she looked through the items in the wooden rack. "I pity the people of Bradford." Catherine was unable to keep her mouth shut, recalling what happened at the tournament. Her father had never been ashamed like that ever before in his life. Granted, she knew it was partially her fault for what happened. Still, she hated Ghost as he almost killed Andrews and took a huge chunk of land from them. "Shove that pity up your ass." Gaia mumbled in just enough voice for the princess to hear her, but not too loud.
"What did you say?"
"I said thank you." The 5 men behind the princess wanted this to be over as soon as possible before the situation escalated into a fight. They could see Catherine clenching her fist, looking at the back of the girl. The girl, on the other hand, was more focused on rummaging through the items on the rack.
"What is this?"
Gaia took an old parchment covered in dust. The parchment looked as though no one touched it for at least a couple of decades. She opened up the parchment to see a blueprint for a carriage. Seriously? She placed the spell back on the rack with enough for to make a thud sound. "System has found only one item that could interest the host." "What?
Only one?"
Michael asked the system in his mind. "Yes. All the other items are mediocre at best and most of them are just junk." "Where's that item you found?" The system pointed to the item using the environmental scanning map as Michael made his way toward the item. One of the racks in front of him had countless parchments and other weird-looking objects covered in dust. He shoved all the objects aside to pick up a rusty old metal box. It was small as it fit in his palm. The rust covered the symbols on the surface, preventing anyone from recognizing the symbols.
"What the hell is this?"
It was a portal opener. Now it's just a rusty old box. Only the system can make the box work again. For a price. "No shit." Catherine noticed the rusty old box in his hand. She used to play with that box when she was little. Her grandfather bought the item in an auction in our continent. He believed it held some heaven-defying secrets, yet after trying to unlock its secret for decades, he realized the box was nothing but just a metal box.
"Portal opener, huh?
So can I open portals anywhere using this?" "This portal opener can open a portal to only one place. After fixing the place, the host will be unable to change the portal location." A smile emerged on his face. "How much for repairing this?" 15,000 badass points. He didn't order the system to repair the box at this moment. He turned back to see the princess staring at him. "Do you know what this is, Princess Catherine?" "I'm not your personal scholar," Catherine coldly replied. Gaia clenched her fist as she felt like knocking Catherine's teeth out of her mouth. "I'll take this." Only Gaia noticed the glint of excitement in his eyes. Except for Michael, no one had an idea he was holding a power that could change the world forever. "Where does the host want the box to open a portal?" The system sounded rather curious. "Netherrealm." You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.